We excuse Pete Bullock. He's our chairman who is out of town this month. So I get the privilege of, I guess, conducting our meeting tonight. We will start with a prayer by Commissioner Anderson, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Davis.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful that we have the opportunity to gather here tonight as Washington City residents. We're grateful for the country that we live in, for the freedoms that we enjoy. Please help us that we can review the applications today with thoughtful minds and that we will be able to be polite and considerate of each other. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Davis. First item on our agenda for tonight is the approval of our agenda. I look for a motion.
As Commissioner Tupou, I make a motion to approve the agenda for August 5th, 2026.
Commissioner Davis seconds that motion.
So we have a first by Commissioner Tupou, second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Second item is the approval of our minutes from our previous meeting.
As Commissioner Davis, I make a motion that we approve the minutes for Planning Commission from July 15th, 2026.
Second. Have a first by Commissioner Davis, a second by Commissioner Ure. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Third item is declaration of any abstentions and conflicts. Do we have any of our commissioners? All right. Okay, our first item this evening will be item 4A, a public hearing for consideration and approval for conditional use permit C-26-07 for an in-home child care facility located at 723 East Bullock Street. And I'll turn the time over to Eldon for Sebastian, actually. Sebastian for our...
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. The applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to operate a child care facility out of their residence located at 723 East Bullock Street. The child care facility will run from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. The applicant is requesting a maximum number of children, which is 16, to be approved for this child care facility. If the number of children exceeds 8, a second caregiver is required to be on premises at all times, and that's per state law. The home will be required to be inspected by both the building and fire departments and given approval for the proposed use. A drop-off and pickup plan consisting of 5-minute intervals is shown, and that will need to remain in place to mitigate any potential traffic problems from all the kids, get dropped off. This facility is held in the basement, and that is shown on that red outline on one of the slides there. Maybe go to the right a bit. A little more. Yeah, so that's just a very kind of basic outline. To the left are photos of the actual where the facility will actually be held, which is just a kind of a walk-in basement. So there's also recreation in the backyard, and that meets state fencing requirements, so they're good to go on that. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve C-2607, allowing for an in-home childcare facility at 723 East Bullock Street, based on the findings and conditions in staff report. That concludes staff report, and I can answer any additional questions you may have.
Do any commissioners have questions for Sebastian at this time? All right. This is a public hearing, and prior to opening this, there have been, for tonight's meeting, there have been several comments that have been submitted online. The commissioners do receive those, so we have seen those. So if we are aware of those comments, and they won't need to be repeated in tonight's meeting. But we welcome anyone who has additional comments that would like to share on this particular item. You can come forward at this time. And if we have no comments, we'll close the public portion of our meeting and look for any comments or a motion from our commissioners.
Is the applicant present?
Is the applicant present this evening? She looks like she is. Do you have questions for the applicant?
Just, it states, well, yeah, just for a second, if you don't mind.
If you could please come forward, yeah.
If you would, please.
And if you could just state your name just for the record so it's recorded.
Yeah, my name is Dulce Sanchez. I'm the person trying to open the childcare in this facility. I was approved in my other facility a few months ago, but then the HOA opposed. So I went back to my next place, and this is why I'm here today.
So were you living here?
Yes,
Yeah.
I moved back to my other house.
So you moved to the current location, okay? Because I believe in your proposal, it says you have 25 years experience doing this?
Oh, yeah, I've been doing this for 30 years. Yeah. I raised my 4 kids doing this, and I have a lot of children around California and Utah doing this. So it's been hard to obtain everything here when I moved from Salt Lake the last 7 years, but I'm here again, trying again.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like that's all. Thank you.
I've
Yeah.
reviewed the packet, I'm good.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I make a motion to recommend approval of C-26-07, request for a conditional use permit for a child care facility located at 723 East Bullock Street with the findings and recommendations outlined by staff.
Commissioner Tupou, I second that.
All right, we have a first by Commissioner Anderson, a second by Commissioner Tupou. Individual voting, Anderson,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Tupou,
Aye.
and you're,
Aye.
and I'm Commissioner Mitchell, and I'm an aye as well. Item 4B is a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to the City Council. The General Plan Amendment G-26-03 from open space to low-density residential located approximately 1,608 north, 590 west. And Eldon, is this you? All right, turn the time to Eldon.
Thank you, Commissioners. When the adjacent land to this proposal was developed, this piece of property was encumbered by the floodplain, which is a reason why this property was not included in the original development, with the landowner making the decision to leave this land undeveloped. Since this time, the floodplain line at this location has been reduced, removing the requirement that the developer obtain CLOMAR approval and amend the LOMAR maps. And that's quite a lengthy process dealing with the federal government. With that being said, the applicant is proposing to change the general plan land use map from open space to low density. for the purpose of developing the site into a single-family residential lot consisting of 0.83 acres. So you can see there, they will be moving forward with a one-lot residential subdivision if this were to be approved. The applicant has noted in the application that they intend to build a single-family home consisting of a single story with a walkout basement. This property is in the hillside overlay zone. We'll pull up this map. And on April 20th, the Hillside Review Board reviewed development plans and recommended approval, noting the land be graded for a walkout basement, along with proposed retaining walls be constructed with natural material that blends in and matches the native land in this area. Staff supports the recommendation of the Hillside Review Board, allowing for one single-family residence, which consists of a single story with a walkout basement at this location. With this agenda item concerning itself with the general plan, it should be known that the zoning designation at this location also needs to be updated to allow a residential use. For your information, the applicant has submitted a zone change application, which is on this evening's agenda, and that the zoning will be discussed at that time. I just wanted to make that known. We did receive a handful of comments on this. Appreciate those comments that came in. As I read through those comments, I could tell the community members had done their homework, looked at the general plan, and even quoted the general plan there. So appreciate those comments. One thing I did want to note, and that wasn't mentioned in the general plan, on page 19, under number 7, it does state that the open space designations on the land use plan map are approximate, intended to trigger detailed analysis for compliance with the city's various ordinances related to open space, which consists of the hillside ordinance, floodplains, threatened and endangered species, etc. So I didn't want it to be one-sided. Some of those comments were picked out to make it look one-sided, and this would show another side of the general plan as well. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of G-26-03 as outlined above and as shown in the exhibits, and this will go on to City Council for approval. You can see here, looking at the hillside overlay, the blue is the proposed area. There is an area in the 30 to 40% range, which is a man-made slope. You can see this larger riprap rock that was brought in for fill to support the roadway for that development that exists. So looking outside of that area, you can see the hillside that it's very flat once you get down to the bottom, looking down into that ravine. And again, this was discussed and vetted with the Hillside Review Board. That concludes staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
All right, thank you, Eldon. Do you have any questions?
I have a little question. I just want to make sure that I understand what happened here. The developer came in, bought the land, developed everything that was not in a floodplain at that time. This lot was in the floodplain, and it was therefore zoned open space, and it was also had a hillside overlay. So it was encumbered with all of those layers because of that floodplain. When that floodplain line got moved, it made it so the developer now has more of an incentive to build that out, because he or she may not have to go through all of the same, to build on a floodplain is complicated with the federal government. So now the case is, hey, the floodplain got moved, so can we also change the open space designation? And can we also remove the hillside overlay? And the hillside overlay committee went and looked at it, and it's their job to kind of make sure that we don't ruin our hills. And they said, this should be fine, this would be an appropriate exemption, and they're saying like, yeah, we can do that. And so that's where we are. Am I understanding that right? Is that about right?
Yeah, that sounds right. I wasn't involved when the last, is it the last sun? The last sun at Green Springs, when that developed, that was 2005, 2006, so that was before my time. However, I did go back and review those plans, and I did notice, I think it was phase 3, that included that floodplain line on a pre-plat, which cut through this area, and would be reason as to why or why not it was included in that previous development. You know, I can't speak to the specifics of that, but that made sense to me as to being a reason.
Does it seem odd that the floodplain came into a corner like that? I mean, that's like a 90-degree corner up there. How come, why isn't the lot next to it? Why wasn't that originally? I mean, you probably don't know, but that just seems unusual.
I will draw a line where it appeared to be on the pre-plat. And again, this is just approximate.
I didn't think you were going to be able to answer that question, so this is good stuff, Eldon. Thanks.
Well, that floodplain line is in the vicinity of that blue area. Now, if I take this off and click on the floodplain, you'll see it's significantly reduced to the bottom of that area.
So it originally went through the lot to the north as well. And how did that lot get permission to build on the floodplain? Do we know?
If it was in the floodplain, they would have submitted a floodplain
went through
permit and
the
gone
rigmarole.
through
Okay.
the requirements to absolutely meet that stuff.
When you build on floodplain, the lines are drawn relative to how close you are, like to the riverbed or whatever, and elevation of that, like the house above that. If they raise it above that elevation, then it's no longer in the floodplain.
So they could have brought in
That's
enough
probably what
dirt.
they did. They probably leveled it out above the floodplain, so it was out of the floodplain. Which is essentially what this one would have done. It's just, it had a deep enough
Too
hole.
much
It just
dirt.
would have been a lot of dirt on it, but now that they shrunk the floodplain, it makes it more feasible.
Economically viable to do that.
And it's not that much. I mean, I'm looking here, the elevation, the bottom of that wall is 10 feet from the curb, which is, typical of a lot of
Okay.
rock retaining walls. There are a lot more extreme examples in town than this.
Okay. So if he wanted to right now, he could.
Well, he could have before. It's just he didn't designate it as a lot before. That's why.
Yeah, because of the floodplain. Yeah.
But an open space is not a zoning designation. It's just a placeholder that says not designated yet.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean open space, which is, we've argued that forever, that it's a dumb name because it
Sounds like a designation.
A great comment. As general plans come in and we're trying to update, we're trying to designate areas as not yet determined as the placeholder. In the past, it's been
Yeah, 'cause
open space as
open space sounds like it's supposed to be open space. So
Yeah,
it's
like a permanent
misleading.
designation, but it's more of a placeholder.
Just means it was never designated anything.
So when something's not designated, it automatically grabs the attribution of open space. Huh. Cool, thanks.
What goes into changing the floodplain? I'm just curious. Obviously, development will change the amount of water that's going to flow into the wash, but I'm just curious, like how often do we see floodplains change?
It's done by the federal government, and they recently just changed it. I was speaking with our floodplain administrator, and it's so new that our maps haven't been updated to reflect the newest change. I'm not sure how often those occur.
Okay. this is this is a public hearing. Do we have anyone here this evening for this particular item? If so, you can come forward now.
Evening. My name is Scott Haycock. My wife and I are own one of the two homes right at the top of that proposed zone change. We've been there about 14 years, and I didn't hear all of your comments. I couldn't hear. I don't know if I don't hear so well or what, but I did send in the comments, which I know you've read, where I quoted the general plan to some extent. I'd just like to read one part of it again, which may be duplicating what you've already heard. But on page 19 of the general plan, it says, "The preservation of permanent open space is among the most important issues facing Washington City today. And it is important to preserve the city's remaining ridges and hillsides." As I see the floodplain depicted now, we've only seen flooding down Mill Creek Canyon on rare occasions. I'm not even sure where the water begins. I don't know if it comes off Pine Mountain and then down into Mill Creek or where. But we've only seen it a time or two where it could actually be called flooding stage. And it did not come far up the hillside. So I have no objection to the way the floodplain is shown now. What I do have an objection to is the building of any building within that previously designated open space area. I don't know how, I've never been involved in any of this kind of thing before, and over the last 12 days since we got the notification letter, it's been kind of a fire hose approach, trying to learn and get up to speed on how this process works. I know that the developer and others have been involved in this for a number of months, and so I think they have their ducks in a row, and I am not aware of any legal approach that any of us can take, any of the homeowners can take, to oppose what is being proposed. But if you've seen that area up there, I think you would agree that it is not an appropriate site to build anything on. It's already in the canyon. We're overlooking the canyon directly, and a building built on parcel A as designated here would definitely be below the rim of the canyon and would be an oddity in that location. I don't know if we were lucky, I guess, to even get notified of this zoning change before the bulldozers showed up, because I don't know that the city is even obligated to notify us of these type of changes. But I have a couple of questions that maybe you can answer. I'm not familiar with the term the hillside overlay zone. I don't even know what that refers to. Is it appropriate for me to ask that question here now?
Yeah, definitely. Any specific want to address that, Commissioner or Eldon? Any of us can probably address it, but maybe Eldon, if you would.
Yeah, great questions. In regards to notifications, we are required by state law to send notifications out for zone changes and general plans as such. We send a minimum of 30 notices out, and approximately 300 feet from the property to stay in compliance with state law. The hillside overlay zone is a protective measure put in place to have a second review, a second board other than the planning commissioners here to give thoughtful eye on these projects and give a recommendation if development is sound, protecting viewshed corridors, protecting unique outcroppings, ridge lines, and development in those sensitive areas.
Could everyone hear Eldon talking? Can you guys all hear him at the back? Most people can, but there are just a couple who couldn't. Okay, thanks.
Maybe I'm the only one that's hard of hearing, I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah, did that help with that explanation? Did that help?
Well, it was another set of eyes, I guess, that's looking out for proper.
Yeah, just so that to help control how much of the hillsides get cut away or to leave, you know, what I would call like an eyesore. It's a group that's put together to help try to maintain a good visual to all of our developments that are participate on a hillside.
One last comment on that. In the hillside overlay zone, there's percentages designated how steep the slope is. If development is in a 0 to 20% grade, the underlying zoning applies for how dense or how many homes can come into that area. When they get into the 20 to 25% slope category, it's reduced to 3 density units per acre that could come in that area. And then when they get to 25 to 30% slope categories, it's a 2 density or a 2 home per acre requirement. And then 30% and above is a no build, no touch area. So if we turn our attention to this map here, the area, the 30 to 40% is a man-made slope that was brought in for 590 West. So the hillside didn't view that as a natural hillside to protect, and what is there is pretty flat. So those percentages, you know, really didn't apply.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last sentence.
Just as, you know, this will be a walkout basement. So as you get to the back of the lot, or at the bottom of that man-made slope, it's very flat. You know, there's a little undulation in there, which meets the 20 to 25%, and that allows development to occur within the hillside.
Okay, well, I would disagree that it's very flat. It's not flat. It's sloping all the way from the back of my property down the slope, yes, at different angles, but all the way to the bottom of the canyon. There's no place in there that's flat. And one other question that I had is, as it's discussing the walkout basement, it says discussion, this is on April 20th, Mill Creek single lot. I don't even know what this document is, but it says discussion was had about removing the hillside or keeping it in place. The HRB found value in leaving the hillside overlay in place. What does it mean, removing the hillside?
Just adjusting those boundaries and stating there is no hillside overlay, there is no protection. The Hillside Review Board felt their protection was needed so that when a home comes forward, we can still say the hillside's intact. We need to abide by the hillside recommendations that were made, such as a single-story home with a walkout basement, and any and all proposed retaining walls will blend in with the native land there. So there's value in leaving the overlay in place.
So how would a walkout basement be built? Would it have to be dug down into the existing rock, which is largely rock? Would it have to be dynamited or what?
That's not how this works. See, the bottom of the ravine, okay, so you guys are all familiar with how the rocks are, right? It's called riprap, where you have all the small rocks that kind of go down the slope. So that's the man-made slope that he's talking about. That's what was put in there to go from the curb down to the bottom of the gully, right? So from the curb to the bottom of the gully is 10 feet, right? It drops 10 feet. It's a man-made slope. That's why he's saying it didn't qualify for the hillside zone is because that portion of the slope was a man-made slope. That doesn't mean getting rid of any hillside, and it just means it didn't meet the criteria for that zone. But as far as a walkout basement goes, every walkout basement lot, the bottom portion where the basement sits is 10 feet lower than the street. And so
10 feet lower than what?
10 feet lower than the street.
The street?
Yes, that's how every walkout basement is.
What street? There's no street.
No, the cul-de-sac, the curb and gutter, the sidewalk where the
10
cul-de-sac
feet lower than the cul-de-sac level.
is where the bottom of that gully is. Yes, it's a 10-foot drop, but it's that man-made riprap that goes down to that.
Right.
At the bottom of that gully, though, that's where he's saying it's relatively flat, is because at the bottom of the gully, it only changes 3 feet from the bottom of that gully all the way to the back of the lot. And so the bottom portion is flat. Getting to the bottom portion, yeah, is steep, but on any walkout basement, you have to have a 10-foot drop anyways. And so that's how they would be building that, is the basement would sit on the existing bottom portion of that. They build retaining walls around I guess it's the south side of it, and it would look just like any other single-story lot or single-story home from the street. It wouldn't be down below. It would be even. It would look just like your home or any other home from the cul-de-sac.
Oh, it would look different. I mean, would there, with the walkout basement, would there be a slab? Where would this house be built on a slab at some point?
No, it's built on basement walls.
Based on what?
Basement walls. It's just
Basement
like any
walls.
other walkout basement.
Okay.
So when viewed from the street, from the cul-de-sac level, it looks like a one-level house. The only place you would see the basement portion would be if you're all the way down at the bottom of the ravine looking up. But from the cul-de-sac side, it looks like a one-level house.
So the top of the basement level would be basically level with the rock that's already there,
It would be
possibly?
roughly level with the sidewalk. That's how that works. It's usually like a foot above sidewalk is typical.
The backyard will be level with the
The
current.
backyard will be down
Yeah.
the level of the gully.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty seeing that, but
But that is how they're built. That's how every walkout basement is built.
okay. Okay. I assume all of you have seen this property that we're talking about here. And like if you look at that, where that arrow says proposed lot in this location, you're saying it's only a 3-foot drop down to there from the back of the property?
No, I'm saying it's a 10-foot drop from the sidewalk to the bottom of that gully. You need a 10-foot drop for a basement. It does slope from this house down, and so a portion of that gets dug out where the basement is. But the bottom of the gully, kind of to the right-hand side of that arrow, that's where it's 10 feet lower. It's already 10 feet lower there.
Okay, so do we know?
So basically, the man-made slope that's there comes out, and then a little bit of the slope, kind of where that arrow comes out just to flatten it. You put a basement in, it gets backfilled, and it just looks like all the other houses in the cul-de-sac there.
So where would the takeoff for the road going into that property be? Just right?
There's not a road. It would just have a driveway. Just, like I said, it would look just like any other house.
I mean a driveway. Where would the driveway be?
I mean, it'd be on the high side, so probably like where it says
Where
man-made
that
slope
main
or whatever.
riprap is on the left there?
Yes, probably on that left side
Somewhere
somewhere.
from there in, and then build up, or what? Or just drop down?
No,
to the
it would just
house?
go straight in.
Be quite a drop.
No. I'm sorry. This is how every walkout basement in town is built. That's how they all are. Yes, the main level it's just a one-level house like every other house in there. From what you see from the street, the rest of it is down below. No.
Do we know of enough about the building itself to know how high it would be?
That is
From-
not what's being discussed at this point. Right now, we're talking about a general plan amendment.
Oh,
We're
okay.
not looking at plans, we're not talking about design or anything
Okay.
like that, sir.
Okay. Well, obviously, I mean, we would want it, we would prefer it as low as possible. We're going to lose most of our view, we suspect. for the two homes there on the immediate left. And we would ask that, I mean, do we have any say? Do you have any say on how high the building goes, or is that left up to the builder once they get approval to move ahead?
Well, they have to meet city code as far as building height. That's not something that we dictate here.
But what was approved was a single story.
I'm sorry?
From the street, it can only look like a single story.
Right.
On the back side, it can go into 2 stories because it's a walkout. So from the street, that's been taken into consideration, and they're limited to what appears from the street to be a 1-story home.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't know. I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm just an old. I know nothing about how this process works, and it's been kind of a learning experience. And regrettably, I'll probably only go through this one time in my life, so I probably won't remember a whole lot of it. I'm just an old Vietnam and Gulf War veteran with 3 tours in the Pentagon, and my wife. I met my beautiful woman here after my first tour in Vietnam, and she was with me for the next 2 decades until we retired and decided we needed to go find a more peaceful location to settle down. So when we found that beautiful lot up there where Dave and I live, the 2 homes most affected by this process, we thought we had found our ideal location, and we had. We've enjoyed it we're in our 14th year there, and we had hoped to enjoy it for the remainder of our time. I realized times change. Builders and people have better insights in how Sitla sells off their property and all those kind of things, and I didn't even know what Sitla was before this started, so I realized that things change. We hate to see it, but I don't know how. I know the city master plan is not a legal document, and I can't point to any particular comments within it to hold a legal position, but I think it does present an overall feeling that existing open space should remain open space. And I know that, if you get a good architect and a good builder, they could build a home on the steepest slope of the canyon there if it were so permitted. But I don't think that would be permitted. And I don't think this should be permitted. So I respectfully request that the change to the master plan, the general plan, be denied, and the zoning change also be denied. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you for your comments.
My name's Craig Olson. I live on the other side of the cul-de-sac from this. And I got a question. Have any of you been out to see this site? All of you? Have you? The other question I have is the owner of this site the one that purchased the property up the road from the school trust lands? And that this was thrown in on that deal, do you know? So you don't know if he's out any extra money for this piece of property? Well,
It looks like this property was owned by whoever originally did the development, and they still own the property. They've owned the property.
that piece there was incorporated with the rest of the property from the school trust lands. And so I know he bought the property, the 2 acres or so up the road, and turned it into 4 lots, which is fine, because he should have done that. But I've understood that this property was thrown in with the school trust lands on the deal. But my question is, or my comment rather, is your predecessors declared that open space. And if you keep picking little areas all over the city, what are you gonna have in 20 years? And the other thing is, I know you can build a house in a swamp, and you'll be able to build a house right there. But I hope you take into account the half a dozen houses around there that it's gonna have an adverse effect on our rights to have the open space the way it was when we purchased it. So take that into consideration if you would.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
My name is Marcy Lenio, and that's the view from my front walk. I live directly across from that, and you say you've all looked at it, because I'm telling you, from those rocks, it's straight down, and I think you put it that it was a slope of like 30%. It is straight down. I look at it every day. Now, it's variegated stages as you move away, but from right there where you're saying, I'm assuming the lot is going to face my house and be right up next to the cul-de-sac. Is that correct? Is that what the plans are? And that's another question. They said the intent is a single-family home. That's not binding, is it?
Well, they can't build anything other than a single-family home. It's not.
I'm sorry?
They can't build anything other than a single-family home.
Why not?
They can't build multifamily or something else in there.
They can build a three-story home. That could happen. But I wonder how binding the word intent, the intent of the developer is to build a one-story home with a walkout basement. Is that binding with the change to your plans?
Yeah, great questions there. The Hillside Review Board, they, in their motion to recommend approval, condition that this, if it were to develop, that it would allow a single-story home with a walkout basement. So when plans come in, if this does move forward and we see a building permit application in the future, we would hold them to that standard.
Okay, so it is binding.
Yeah.
A single-story home with a walkout.
Yeah.
That's a yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we could do the same thing that the Hillside said, if we don't approve this, we're a recommending body to city council.
Yeah.
Just like the Hillside ordinance is recommending to city council, but if we recommended approval, we could do the same thing, and we could recommend approval with the provision that it only be, a one level with a basement below it.
Okay. And I know that your maxim for voting for something is they meet the requirements of the build, basically. I don't know how much you take into consideration open space, natural preserved land, a God-made arroyo, if that comes into your determination or not. But I moved here 6 years ago, and I was told they'll never build Brio, and Brio's built. And then I was told they will never build on the tortoise land, and I can see the houses up there right now that Solente is building. And I was told Washington Parkway will never go through, and we know that's going to happen eventually.
Excuse me,
And I just wonder-
could I ask you who made those comments to you, or who told you about?
People in the neighborhood, realtors, people in the offices of where they were being built.
Yeah.
So it's not a kept secret at
Yeah.
all. And my question is there any way that we can see a plat of survey of all of the zoning of the gorge? Or are you saying that once this one piece of property, if it is approved, is developed, there will be no other changes in the zoning of the gorge where they could bring in other kinds of things? Because I know once they built Washington Parkway, that did change the floodplain because they were able to dam it up and then it's on the other side. Will the gorge ever be built in anywhere else other than maybe the property on the other side that actually is land? It's not open space, it's actually land. We anticipate that someday.
Yeah, if there is, it would go through the same process.
So that could happen.
So
Yes.
I'm looking at the ownership of the land here, and the same person, they do own the whole gorge. It's private property. However, the only easy place to get access to build a lot is this spot. I mean, so in theory, could someone do something with more of the gorge? Maybe you could fit one more south of that, but it would be extremely expensive and extremely difficult to do, which is why, my guess is, which is why they didn't do anything before. I mean, the floodplain is still there, it just moved a little bit. So to try and build something further into the ravine, then they're suddenly gonna be in the floodplain again. And like this one will require some retaining walls down on the bottom right side, you know,
Right.
on the low point.
Right.
But the rest of it is gonna be fairly simple to build. But if they were to try and do anything anywhere else, you're talking lots and lots of expensive retaining walls and regulation hoops. So could they do something at their end? Anything's possible, but it'd be extremely difficult and extremely expensive.
Well, I can tell you, and I'm sure all of you have driven up Green Springs Boulevard, and as you're headed north and you look left, there's a wall with about 1 million cinder block bricks with probably 1 million pounds of dirt in it, so it can be done.
It can, it's just, yeah, like I said, it extremely expensive, not likely, but it is private property and maybe they could do something, but very expensive and unlikely to do so.
Okay, is there, our concern, our neighbors and I are concerned, is that they're gonna have to do some dynamiting. If there's damage to our property, is the builder responsible?
There's a
if we
city
get-
ordinance that you can't dynamite within so many feet of existing homes. And they would be too close to be able to dynamite, so
Haven't we had people
you can't
dynamite for their
dynamite that
swimming
close to a
pools?
home. You can dynamite, but not that close to a home. I mean, John would know better than anybody, but yeah, you can't dynamite that close to a home.
Okay,
So you,
but if
more
in
than
doing
likely, they'd have
this,
to have a hammer hoe to hammer out some spots on the left-hand side, and they'd be building rock walls on the right-hand side
okay.
to flatten it out.
Craig and I live very close to this. If our homes are damaged, the walls cracked, they're settling, is there any liability on the builder's part for that?
Yeah, you would have, that's why they have insurance for that. That's why they have liability insurance for that sort of thing.
Can there be a limitation on the length of the build? Could it go on for a year?
We don't regulate that. That's
There's
not-
no way you can
That's
control
not
that?
what we do here.
Okay. This cul-de-sac, if you folks were aware of it, I see it all the time. I have a Eufy. Every time somebody walks by, it pings. It pings all day long. It is used by countless numbers of walkers, bikers, kids. People come and park there, get out and stand and look at the gorge. It is a place where people gather. When fireworks go off in Washington, that's where we watch it from. It is used by landscapers, garbage people, repair people. The cul-de-sac is not a real easy way to get in and out of. I mean, you've got that round circle. If it is encumbered by dumpsters, backhoes, cement trucks, and all the other paraphernalia for months at a time, it is going to cause an unfair burden on the people that live there. And that's why I asked about if there's a limitation to the time of the build. Because we would literally have to back out.
Like I said, that's not something that we regulate, but it would be the exact same burden on the street as when your home was built. So, I mean, it's just
Yeah,
what it is.
and I've been kind of holding back, but if we look at it, a lot of the current developments that you now live in were at one time open space.
Oh, I know.
And so the your home. So
I know.
there was probably people at that same meeting who maybe had a backyard that was your development. So I think obviously you've got an individual who owns a piece of property who's applying to try to put a home on that piece of property, just like someone once applied to put homes where your home currently sits.
And I appreciate that. We're built on land that's being built in the air, or you're going to bring in mountains of dirt and soil and whatever to make it buildable upon. And I guess that's my biggest complaint, is that you're taking a property that was not meant to be built on and allowing somebody to take all kinds of materials to build on it.
Yeah, with a walkout basement and the location that this sits, they're not going to be, a walkout basement is meant to fit in this situation where the ground slopes away from the road.
Oh, I know walkout. I'm from Chicago, and we have lots of houses that have 2 stories up and a walkout basement out. I hate to tell you, the history of them is not the greatest as far as plumbing and other things. I just want to be sure. The house that is proposed to be built will face the cul-de-sac. They will access it by a driveway that goes into the cul-de-sac, and it will then have a walkout basement that faces east. Is that east? That
The
way?
ravine, yeah, the wash,
The wash, the gorge. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
yeah.
And
Well,
so
then-
it will be,
But
will it
I-
be built up right against the cul-de-sac? Most of us are at least,
I want to throw in there that we're not approving the orientation of the house. I mean, that's a good
We're just saying
idea
that's the
as-
likely orientation of it.
Correct,
'Cause there's
yes,
not a
I-
whole lot other that you could do, but he's right, we're not approving anything. That's just the only likely way they could build it.
okay,
But that is not being determined
Yeah.
in tonight's meeting, yeah, correct.
okay.
In reference to, so I know the lot you're talking about that has the massive, huge, walls that they built and so forth. And the two houses up there, and I saw them being built and everything. Those are like 30 to 40 feet tall. This is 10 feet tall on the right-hand side. So it's not even in the same league as what those things are. Not even close. But I'm aware of what you're talking about, so.
No, you got great architects. You can build anything anywhere in this town. So, okay, thank you.
My name is Terry Linneo. I'm her other half. And her comments, I have a couple of follow-up questions that I'd like to ask. One, is there a required setback from the curb before you can actually build your house, or can you build your house right up on the curb? Because you say you have a definition of flat that is certainly unique. Because as Scott said, my wife said, there is nothing flat about that property, and it does fall off dramatically. The flat part that's up against the fences up there is not much bigger than this area right here. So I don't know where you're going to build. If you take that as a driveway and go back, there's kind of a flat ridge directly in back of Scott's house that you'd have to break away some of the shale, I guess, or sandstone to build your walkout basement, and then you'd have to fill in a big bunch for your driveway. And if you say you walk that, you couldn't have walked very far because that is up and down and not flat at all. You have a unique definition of flat. So what is this required setback, or is there a required setback from the curb?
It's the exact same setback that your house has.
I'm sorry?
It's the exact same setback that your house has.
Okay, then are you going to build a house in the middle of the air then? Because I don't know where you're going to build it unless you
The
go
lot
way
gets
far
flattened.
back.
The lot gets flattened before you build the house. If there's a high spot, it gets lowered. If there's a low spot, it gets raised. It's how you have to level the lot. And so if you got a low spot, you have to raise it up. If you got a high spot, you got to bring it down. But the lot gets flattened, and the setback is the exact same as all the other houses in there.
That's going to require an awful lot. I'm afraid that's what that's going to look like. But I guess my next question is there any liability to the city you said, if anything happens to our homes during that construction process because of jackhammering or breaking up rock or whatever they have to do, since you say they can't use dynamite, is the builder totally responsible, or does the city have some responsibility too? Because you're the one that's making a decision that, yeah, they can build a house there.
That would be something that you would take up with the builder's insurance.
So in other words, you can't answer that question.
I just did answer that
Yeah.
question.
Building happens
It's
all
the
over
builder-
in
the
the
builder
city.
has liability.
Like there's building that goes on every single day in different developments. So that would be a concern that maybe you could bring up with your attorney.
Okay.
Can we move that one down so we see all three of the cul-de-sacs?
Ellen,
That
can you
picture
move
right
your,
there. Just move it down so it shows all three of the cul-de-sacs right there. Okay, yeah. So I'm on Last Son, Kay Westman. I'm on Fairway Drive, but it's been interesting to me because you are aware when that flood came down through there, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, it was so powerful that it actually moved the big metal plates. You all know Green Springs Golf Course, coming down from going to the number 5, down at the bottom of the wash. It was so powerful, it moved all of the metal plates clear down the wash. And that's why you had to build all the concrete business at the bottom between 5 and then the bridge at 6 at Green Springs. So the wash was that powerful when it did rain that bad. I know we're in the middle of a drought now, but it did come very powerfully down that wash. And my other question, all the problems with the water lines along Last Sun, and in the middle cul-de-sac there, they've had a collapse just, was it this past year? It collapsed in the middle of that circle, the middle circle, and every one of the homeowners all the way up and down Fairway have had the water lines were a problem, and then if it was on your side of the box, you had to pay for it. If it's on the city side of the box, the city had to pay for it because they had to redo all of the lines in that. So the question is, the sewage, I assume sump pump from this house coming up right into that lower cul-de-sac, trying to make it out and turn to the main one at Fairway. I assume we're not going to have the sewage line going down anyplace else. It'll come up and join the problem lines of Last Sun.
Yeah, that is
So-
actually, that is a fair question, and
Westman, K. Westman.
it will have to tie into existing infrastructure, I would imagine, John. And maybe just to clarify, you could answer her question that yes, it will have to tie
will have
into
to.
existing. Yeah, so,
Yeah, were you
yes.
aware that we had a big collapse in that middle cul-de-sac just a while back? And all of the homeowners have had the problems with the water lines all up and down Last Sun. So that's been a big issue. And I would wonder if adding a whole lot more to it is going to cause even more difficulties with the sewer lines and the water lines. So that's just a possible thing that I don't know how much has been looked at on.
All right, thank you.
Hi, David Anderson. I'm kind of the new kid on the block. I'm in the house directly next to Scott's, I guess. And I got a few questions. One being, you mentioned that possibly the driveway is going to go in. Where's the picture? Can you move the picture a little bit to go back?
It usually goes in on the high side of the lot, which would be
Yeah, which is right along my backyard.
the north side.
So, am I going to have a driveway with lights flashing in my windows? I mean, people driving up and down a driveway. I mean, that's not very fair to me. I'm just concerned about how that's going to get situated in there. I mean, if they're going to build a driveway right down the backside of my yard, I mean, would you want headlights in your front room? I mean, how's that? I don't understand how the house is going to get situated there. You're saying, is the setback 25 feet? I mean, that's what it is in the subdivision, I know. So you're saying that house is going to be set back 25 feet? And then they're just going to bring in a massive amount of fill and just fill that in and then put rocks on it? I mean, that's an eyesore.
Are you familiar how homes are built?
Yeah, well, I mean that ravine there is pretty steep. I mean, it's 40 degrees or higher.
You said
It's
the
not a good-
only part that's 40% or higher is the man-made slope that's there.
Yeah, and it's, I
Which
mean,
that
it's
comes
not a
out.
good place to, I mean, it's not a good place to build a house. I don't see how they can do it, honestly. I mean, that's a lot of dirt. And so they would just be at the street level, the main level of the new house would be street level.
So if you look at the back
Set
of your,
back
if you look at the
25
back of your house, so the back of your house used to be part of that ravine. It was filled in, you can see it right here. It was filled in just like the stuff that's currently there, so your house could be there. So when this lot gets filled in the same, it'll be similar to how your house was done. Your house had to fill part of that ravine in for it to be built.
So basically it just gets plopped right behind mine, just directly behind my house. So much for the dream house, huh? So isn't there any kind of rules about how things gotta fit in, or, I mean,
The same rules, that applied to the building of your home and to the building of the entire neighborhood would still apply if there was a home built there.
well, I understand that, but, you know, I would sure like to keep it open space.
Can't
I know
blame you
that's
for
what
that.
you guys are trying to recommend right now.
Yeah, and I think the underlying concern that I'm hearing from each individual that lives in that community is that, right? And unfortunately, we can't control what real estate agents and other individuals will say to individuals to sell a property. But like I said before, unfortunately, probably where your house is sitting at one time was open space.
Right. All right, well, I don't have any other questions. Thanks.
I'm sure the option to buy the lot from the current owners, probably, someone needs to approach them and make an offer to buy it so that they can't do anything. And then you would own the property and decide what happens to it.
That's a great point.
When we came here to Washington, over 14 years ago, actually 15 when it came up, we as a military family have lived in locations all over the world. My husband and I are both from the West. I'm from Arizona. My husband's from Kanab. We have descendants in your cemetery. We found this lot on the end. It was not part of the development because it had already been sold by someone back east. And we found out from neighbors that he'd changed his mind. So we were fortunate enough to make an offer, and he sold to us. We have loved living there. But it's not just the lot we're on. It's seeing Pine Mountain. It's seeing all the rock ridges around this area. And when we bought that lot, I looked, and I mean, before we did, and I thought, well, are they going to build anything down below us? No, it was zoned open space, and we trusted that we could build there and have open space. I realize as changes come, and be protected. We can't just pick up our house, first house we've ever had the opportunity to build because of moving so often, serving this country. We love our house. We love Washington. We love the red rock around. We love Pine Mountain. And nothing that you're showing us shows us vertically that little canyon on the east side with all the red rock openings. And people come all from this neighborhood. They come to that cul-de-sac. There's not a pathway down. That might be a good thing to invest in. They climb down. They go to the dry river bed. They like that east side, which you aren't showing at all, with all the interesting little caves and ridges, which your original founding fathers will say of Washington City wanted protected. If you keep building on all that stuff, all that beautiful stuff that nature's made, we will not have the iconic beauty that we do here. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. when it was beautiful and lovely, and they had a little hill over here that's now part of Scottsdale called Camelback Mountain. Why? It was red rock. It looked like a camel. It was iconic. People could see it from all over that valley because it's very flat. Well, the people in the city closest to it decided, oh, we're going to rezone that. And now all it is a framework for houses. And the iconic beauty of those hills around is no more. And you know what? You can build on anything. Sure you can. It takes wisdom and foresight to preserve that which is beautiful and makes this whole area what it is and what it attracts, why it attracts other people. You can't just rebuild the natural beauty there. You have no pictures at all of the canyon across the way that we love and is preserved for everyone that comes to that cul-de-sac and wants to walk down, which they do frequently. I have to admit, when it's 110, 112, we don't have as many people walk over there. But we sure do come fall. It's worth preserving, and I think we need some vision here. And I also, you may have been to that cul-de-sac, but did you ever walk down it? Have you ever been there? Have you heard the quail and all of the animals that actually are self-reliant in that canyon? We expect you to preserve what is beautiful around here. And if you don't, who will? How about Zion National Park? What about the people that first lived around it? What if they just wanted to build a little house here and there, and who cares about this magnificent canyon? You have to have vision and be willing to sacrifice for the good. And the original founding fathers will say Washington City had that vision. That's why they put it in your plan. And I hope with all my heart that you will desire to preserve beauty, because if you don't, it won't be there anymore. My most favorite place in this world is the Grand Canyon. That took thousands and thousands of years. We just have little bits that represent that. Please, please, preserve that which is important and can't be replaced. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment. If you make it quick, please.
Pardon me?
Can you make it quick, please? We've already listened. I gave you quite a bit of time as well, but
Okay,
just
this will
share
only take
your comment.
a minute. I got two questions. Has that property got a legal description?
Yeah,
You sure?
yeah, I'm looking at it right here.
When was that established?
When was it established? I mean, when was it sold? What do you mean?
And so, did you approve the legal description?
I didn't approve it. No, that's not something that we do here.
Does anybody know that?
The legal description for the .83 lots has not been established or recorded with the county. It's just a proposed .83 acres. Does that answer your question?
Was that property owned by the school trust lands prior to this?
Yes, prior to this, it was. Yeah.
And so when they sold the property up above, did they incorporate this in that sale? And establish a...
It looks like on the ownership map, there's a big chunk. It's 13.18 acres. It includes the entire ravine, plus a thin sliver up along Washington Parkway, and then probably the spot you're talking about up higher.
And so you're not sure when the
All I know is
description
that
for that
it's just one
property
big
was
piece of property
established?
owned by this one owner. That's all I can say.
I think you need to check it out, to be honest with you.
Legally owned by this person. That's,
Was it established by the school trust lands?
well, if it's owned by this person legally, then it would be.
Because I
whoever they
was under
purchased
the
it from.
impression that whole thing, all the way down the canyon, was all one piece, until this was established when that other property was bought. And if it was established, I'm just wondering if anybody here was involved with the approval of it.
None of us were involved, no.
Yeah, we wouldn't be we wouldn't be involved in the sale of a piece of property.
As far as who owns the property, I mean, it's all owned by one person, including the cliffs, including the ravine. It's all owned by the same person. I mean, it's private property.
You might want to check it out, just for your protection. Are you the owner? Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments for this particular item?
Hi, I'm Frank Torrey. I'm one of the nearby lots. I just want to get something clarified, because it seemed like we've been kind of talking past each other. When you say you build it up, it sounds to me like a traditional walkout. You're saying you'll bring enough fill where the driveway is at the same level as the cul-de-sac. Is that correct?
Correct, like the front yard will be level with.
And so their
More often.
driveway would be at that elevation, the same as the cul-de-sac?
Typically,
yes.
Typically in walkout basements, your basement walls are about 12 inches, sometimes a little bit more, but in this case, it'd likely be 12 inches above the cul-de-sac at the high side.
I'm envisioning like you're gonna put some fill at that front end toward the cul-de-sac, and then there'll be the drop-off for the walkout basement?
From the cul-de-sac, it's all level. You have the basement gets set down at the bottom of the tank.
Right. But that means that they're gonna bring in fill, right, for that area, to join into the cul-de-sac?
A little bit on the south side, but not much.
Well, there was the 10 feet,
Because the basement's
right?
gonna fill most of the whole.
But I mean, their driveway's not gonna go downhill.
No, the driveway's not gonna go down.
It'll
It's
be
gonna
at the
go
same
like a
elevation.
normal
It'll be
driveway.
flat.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
just like a normal driveway.
Okay. And then the only other thing I put in the other comment is there any reason why, if that has to go forward, that it wouldn't be annexed into Last Sun's CCNRs and the whole thing? Because it's kind of, that's the area.
Probably should be.
Because then you would naturally get all of the build restrictions and all that stuff automatically picked up by our existing CCNRs that would match what we had to do. I'm just curious if you could take that.
Eldon, do you have an answer for that question?
Pardon?
That's hard to do, to annex into a development where there's two different owners. Typically, when there's multiple phases in a development, they annex into previous phases there and include those same CCNRs. With this being two separate owners, that it typically does not happen, as it's difficult between the ownership there and your development now, including an HOA. I see this development being its own subdivision here.
Then how is the CCRs created?
The developer would determine those, just as were yours with your subdivision.
But wouldn't they be incompatible unless they duplicate them?
They could or could not be compatible.
And just a heads up, I talked to Last Sun, they said they're willing to do it.
Sorry, what was that? Could you
I
repeat
spoke with the guy that did the original CCNRs with Last Sun, and he said, if they want us, we would annex it.
Yeah, that would be kind of outside of our realm to be able to make those decisions.
Yeah. But I just meant, then there's zero work to do CCRs. You just say, here's the copy, move forward with it. And, you know, it gave us side height setbacks. It even had the restriction for us that we had to all build single-story houses on the canyon side. So
We only enforce city code. We don't have anything to do with HOAs, so that's why.
So it'd be the owners that would have to say they're interested in this.
Yes, it would be the owners that would have to make that initial contact.
Okay. And are they even required to make CCNRs, or they could just build under the guidelines of what the existing city code is?
Eldon, do you want to answer that?
To record a subdivision at the county, CCNRs do need to be in place.
Okay. So they'll put something equivalent, and hopefully it's close to ours. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can't guarantee it, but All right, are there any other public comments for this item? If not, we'll come up to the mic. You've actually, please make it quick though too, because you take it.
You mean the date that property was recorded?
State your name.
David Anderson.
Yeah, I'm sure it's on public record, correct? If you went to the county, they would.
Okay,
Allow you
I was
to-
just wondering if you could look it up here, but you can't.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. Yeah, do we have any additional comments from the commissioners?
I've got a question, Eldon. That dirt road that's at the south of the cul-de-sac that leads to some sort of outbuilding, what is going on there? Oh, can you zoom in on that? Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, that's better, thank you. Okay. I mean, the way I think about this, and I'm curious other commissioners' thoughts, but my thoughts are what's happened here is there's a particular single lot that was not developed at the same time as all the others. Had that floodplain line been moved 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier, it would have been developed with all the others. But it wasn't. And what's happened in the meantime is everybody's grown really attached to the lot. Everybody's grown really attached to the view and really attached to the animals and to the alcoves and to the beautiful scenery that it opens up to the neighborhood. And now you've got a private owner who owns the property and wants to develop it because that restriction of the floodplain went away. And so many people have come to love it that it's kind of a grievous situation. People are very sad and upset about it. But we also still have a private owner who owns the property, who if he chooses can go through the processes to approve it and to build on it. And so it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it's that way now, and it's sad. And I am curious about what people could do outside of this process to speak to the owner, to potentially see if there's a way the neighborhood could purchase a lot. I think it does, if we had, hindsight, and there was some way the city could have done something with that, like to give more access to that canyon in appropriate ways would have been really nice. But we don't have that. What we have is a cul-de-sac that's got one more lot on it where the owner wants to build it out again. And so as much as I'm committed to protecting the spaces in our community that need to be protected, the wildlife and the red rock and the hills, this is just an unfortunate little niche, little corner where it's already all been built out except for this one thing, and now suddenly it's okay for the owner. The owner has an incentive to build it out. That's unfortunate, but that's kind of how it is. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it, and I'm curious if anybody else has other thoughts about that.
I think I agree with that. But also there's always an opportunity. We've been talking about open space for years and years, and we've changed how it's defined. Maybe it was defined differently 10 years ago, but that definition has changed over time, and we do have a private owner. I'm all for property rights. You own a piece of land and you can develop it and you meet city code, go for it. I mean, I just like the next person, don't like restrictions on my own personal land. And we have a private owner who wants to build. And if they can meet building code, they can build. But that's not even what we're looking at tonight. We're looking at just the zone change. And we haven't seen plans. We're lucky that we have Corey to explain how the building process works. And, for the average person who's never built a house, it might be a little bit difficult to understand, but he was gracious enough to explain it. So it's, everyone has been hanging out on someone's private property and enjoying the view, and that is unfortunate.
No, and where I come in on this, I mean, I appreciate the commentary. I genuinely do. I appreciate the service as well. I have children in harm's way as well, so I get it. However, we're also talking, we heard commentary about creativity and vision, and I think a very fine point was made by Commissioner Tupou with respect to there can be alternatives that you all can take the matter into your hand if you were to approach the owner. Perhaps something can be done. Perhaps you create your own park or what have you if they would be so willing and you could come to an agreement. However, before us, there are property rights have been mentioned here in the last few minutes, and the owner has rights, and there are processes that are in place that we don't take lightly as well, and we will adhere to that, and we hear the commentary. But when I look at this, it is unfortunate that this is kind of the last egg in the basket in this particular neighborhood, and the situation has changed. In open space, that designation can be a bit misleading, and the owner does have rights, and there are processes, and I come down on the side where there is a sound argument for a general plan amendment, and I don't love it. I would be equally frustrated if I were in your shoes, but this is how I interpret the situation.
So I looked on here, and in answer to some of your questions, it was purchased from Sitla July of 2025, so about a year ago. And here's the one thing that's hard for people to understand, and because I'm torn, because just like you said, I love the open space, and I love the beauty of our community, and I don't want it to explode with growth, and I get that. I want there to be somewhere for my children to be able to live and to buy and build a home, but I don't want it to explode. But at the same time, and you talked about our founding fathers, for example, and you're right, we want to preserve what we have, but we also, part of the founding fathers was also preserving property rights. And the hard thing with this is that it was owned by the state of Utah, by Sitla. Sitla has a mandate, like they don't have any other choice. This is how the law is written. They have a mandate to sell all property that they own in order to fund education in the state of Utah. That's how they fund education. And so this was never, it wasn't a nature preserve or a park or anything. It was owned by Sitla. They had a mandate to sell it. They found somebody willing to buy it. And that person, they made the few lots, north of where you were, and this was the only other piece on that whole chunk where you could actually fit a house. And so for them, I would assume to make sense in buying this big piece, because most of it they can't do anything with. Most of it will always stay a ravine and the cliffs and all that. You can't build on that. So they're trying to make sure they don't lose money on the deal. By them doing that, the one good thing is it actually will help preserve the rest of that more so than if Sitla still owned part of it, because then Sitla could have turned around and sold the cliffs to someone else or done whatever. So, I mean, we can't change the fact that that's how the state has Sitla set up, and most of the land around us that we take for granted and think is public open space is not. It's private land that's owned that is going to be sold at some point in time. The one that's harder to take is when the BLM will sell land, which they don't usually do, but sometimes they sell it too. Sometimes they swap land or whatever. And I have a harder time with that one, because that one is supposed to be public land, but that's a whole nother topic. But the fact is, these people, they did buy the property. They do have a right to apply for this. This is the only place that makes possible sense to put a house. I've built lots of homes, and I've built homes on land much more difficult than this. This is not as extreme as it sounds, but I know it's scary when you're living there. I think that probably the most logical argument with this, as far as it disturbing the neighborhood, would be yours, where you said you'll have somebody driving into their driveway and it does face your backyard, and that is probably the most reasonable argument there. And there's not a whole lot that can be done with that just because of how your house is situated versus this. When you've got a cul-de-sac that's shaped like a T, you're bound to have that happen. You've got that on a few of the other lots on the north cul-de-sac. So anyway, with that said, I mean, they do have property rights. However, like you said, somebody needs to stand up and take a stand, for beautiful areas. And you're right. And the way to do that is, for those of you that value this enough, would be to people get together in the neighborhood and buy it from him. I mean, he's doing it just to try and recoup some of the money that he paid for the whole chunk, So I mean, I would assume he'd be willing to sell this piece rather than pay to developer or whatever. And I'm sure you could find a reasonable amount for this little portion here, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he would have a reasonable amount to sell that. Now, if there's enough of you pitching together and you all want to appreciate that, and you can make it a private HOA park or nature preserve or whatever you want to do, and that's the proper way. The proper way is not for government is not to come and say the government should step in and steal somebody's land, or force them to not do anything with their land and allow public access to hike all over their land just because it's beautiful. That's wrong. That's not what our founding fathers stood for. The proper way is if it's something that you value, or the public or whoever values, pitch in together and buy the land and make it what you think it should be. That is totally possible. So I mean, I would recommend if it is that precious of a spot, which it is beautiful. I've been out there. It is a beautiful spot, but that's the right way to do it. Commissioner Tupou, she's the one that first made that recommendation, and that's the best way to handle that. If not, I mean, this person has a right to build a house on it if as long as they meet all the city codes. So my only other question I had was for you, John, and that is the storm drain. There's an inlet box in that cul-de-sac there. Does it go down the ravine, or does it go north up into the cul-de-sac? It goes south into the ravine. So that would be my only thing, is that if that storm drain is underneath their house, then they're gonna have an easement issue and they're not gonna be able to put it over the top of it. So it may have to be, that would be my only thing, is that where it's sitting right in the middle of that cul-de-sac, there's a good chance it goes right into their house and they wouldn't be able to build there anyways, unless they dealt with it, so.
Or relocate it.
So that would be my only thing from a structural standpoint, is we just need to make sure that's done, that they don't put a house on top of a storm drain. So, anyway.
Yeah. So this is Commissioner Mitchell. I appreciate everything that's been said. I think hopefully for all of us, we've been well educated and that the comments that have been made. The only concern that I sense is, and to me it makes sense that there be one more house, and it's unfortunate that it didn't get to go in during the original development. But now I feel for the individual who is probably going to build a beautiful home in that area, and all the neighbors are going to hate whoever ends up there.
Yeah. I have one other quick comment just about preservation, because I think preservation is on all of our minds as we watch so many people move here and the development, and I think we're all concerned about that. And if you're thinking about preservation from a big picture perspective, this is very different than thinking about going into a beautiful desert that should be preserved up into the rocks and whatever, and all of the infrastructure that it takes to build homes there, all of the digging, all of the power lines, all of the infrastructure. That infrastructure is a big part of what tears things up. This doesn't have that. This is sitting on an existing cul-de-sac with all the amenities right to it right now. It's just the last little build in this subdivision. So personally, preservation is super important to me. It's one of the reasons why I got on this seat, why I'm willing to spend my time volunteering here. But for me, having been exposed to other areas where we really truly need to preserve because of all of the trappings that follow development, this doesn't have that. This is one spot that didn't get built out originally and is now beautiful and everybody loves it, and it's still owned by a private person. So I kind of think that's a little different for preservation.
As this winds down, if I could just make one comment. Typically, however the motion goes tonight would be pushed forward to council for approval or denial the following week. The applicant has a conflict the following week, so this, however it may go tonight, if you recommend to move to council, we ask that it go on the August 26th city council meeting, if that's the direction that it goes tonight, for this item and the following item as well.
All right. Thank you, Eldon.
So anyone attending that, I want to make that known. Keep that in your on the calendar for you guys if you'd like to attend as well.
So whoever makes the motion, there are three things. There's the single-story walkout, kind of making sure that we recommend that. There's the August 26th city council meeting, and then there's the water line thing to kind of be aware of, as it moves on.
And we've got the same issue twice, because this is general plan, and then you got zone change, so we could just say the same type of recommendations with it.
You're so smart, Corey. I think you could really make a really great motion here.
Yeah, if there are any other comments by the commissioners, I just look for a motion.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I'll make a motion to recommend approval of Z-26-17 request. Hold on, am I on the right one? That's the wrong one.
B,
Sorry.
4B.
There we go. Excuse me. Recommend approval of G-26-03. Request to amend the general plan land use map from open space to low density at approximately 1608 north, 590 west. Findings and conditions by staff, but also add the following conditions, that if and when it moves to a building permit stage, that it be restricted to a single level home with a walkout basement below it. And that the
Storm drain.
that the Public Works and the Building Department be made aware of, I guess, with the construction documents, that the storm drain inlet that goes down into the ravine be reviewed to make sure that it doesn't end up under somebody's house.
And then the August 26th city council meeting.
Yeah, and that this will go to City Council August 26th.
Second.
Did you get that, Bonnie? Maybe.
Bonnie did that. Were you able to record that motion? Eldon's got it. All right, we have a first by Commissioner Anderson, and a second by Commissioner Ure. Individual voting, Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner DePaul.
Aye.
Commissioner Ure.
Aye.
And I'm Commissioner Mitchell, and I'm an aye as well. Right. Moving on to item 4C. It is a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to City Council for a zone change, Z-26-17, from open space to R110, located at approximately 1608 North, 590 West. And turn the time over to Eldon for description.
Thank you, Commissioners. This map looks familiar here. We're required by law to hold two separate agenda items for each, the general plan and the zone change, hence the two agenda items. The applicant is proposing to change the zoning map from open space to R110 for the purpose of developing the site into a single-family residential lot consisting of 0.83 acres. And again, the applicant has noted that they intend to build a single-family home consisting of a single story with a walkout basement. The property is in the Hillside Overlay Zone, and the Hillside Review Board has reviewed those plans and made the motion to recommend approval with the walkout basement, along with all the proposed retaining walls be constructed with natural material that blends and matches in with the surrounding land. This application is contingent upon the decision of the general plan amendment, which we just previously discussed. And that general plan must be approved for this zone change to also be changed. The surrounding zoning to this parcel is R110 to the north, west, and open space to the east and south. Staff supports this request and recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval onto City Council for the August 26th meeting, and that's based on the findings stated in staff report. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Eldon, this is Commissioner Mitchell. I know we're continuing to use the designation of open space, but did we not make an adjustment to that, to what you said earlier, to be determined? At what point will we begin to use that designation for these pieces of property that are?
It was in the general plan that we were going to start using those. So as property comes into the city or changes or designated in the floodplain or steep slope categories, that we would identify those as the general plan is not determined. Zoning's a little more difficult. The applicant, it involves the property owners and takes a little bit longer to transition through, but we are in the process of doing those as we see them come through.
Okay, so technically they'll remain labeled that way until the change takes place.
Correct. Until we receive an application, and then we would address those changes, saying, hey, we're now using the not yet determined.
Yeah, so there's no way to make that an overall change so that we can start using that term instead of the current term used.
For the zoning, that's correct, because we have to have the landowner sign off on that application. The government can't overstep and make that change. We would need each applicant or each owner of the land to submit that.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any comments? Obviously, this is strictly tied to the previous item. If there aren't any additional comments, I'll open it up to the public. All right, this is a public hearing, so anybody that's specifically here for this item, feel free to come forward and make a comment at this time.
I'm Sergeant Carter with the police department. Just on a law enforcement side, it is 13 point some acres of private land, if that's correct. So just remember that with it being private land, they can have no trespassing signs on there. So the people that do go down there, I haven't had any calls on it yet, but they do have the ability to make it a no trespassing, so people can't use that land. So just want to make sure that people realize that it is the entire property right there, that is the ravine, it is all that open space, that it is private land. So just for the public to be aware that it could be trespassing, so.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
That's a pretty good insight, so be careful how you talk to this owner. Be kind.
Are there any other comments at this time? All right, we'll close the public hearing and turn time over to the commissioners if you have any comments or to make a motion.
As Commissioner Davis, I'll make a motion. With respect to item Z-2617, I'll recommend approval and forwarding to City Council for their meeting on August 26 of the request to rezone approximately 0.83 acres located at approximately 1608 North, 590 West from the current open space to a proposed R110 zoning designation, subject to the findings and conditions in the staff report to be amended to include the prior comments with respect to the recommending single-story walkout for the potential build, should it be approved, the public works commentary and coordination with respect to storm drain, and one other comment with respect to HOA. I would just put a comment in there to encourage any coordination between the potential or the builder and one or two of the existing HOAs to try to preserve what harmony they can within the development.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a first by, oh, he mentioned the meeting, yeah. We have a first by Commissioner Davis, a second by Commissioner Ure. Individual voting, Anderson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Dupo.
Aye.
And Ure.
Aye.
And I'm Commissioner Mitchell, and I'm an aye as well. All right, our next item is item 4D, public hearing for consideration and recommendation of the City Council for zone change Z-26-14 to change the existing zone from C1 and R110 to C2, located at approximately Integrid Lane and George Washington Boulevard. And turn time to Eldon for our description.
The proposed property is approximately 9.14 acres in size and consists of 5.26 acres as C1 and 3.88 acres as R110. You can see here it's kind of split zone there. The applicant is proposing to change all of that area to C2. The general plan for this area was recently changed to CCOM up to the north property line, which is the backyard line of the residential homes that front Galilee Way. During the general plan amendment, the commercial footprint was reduced from what the applicant was proposing to help transition between the land uses. This reduction is reflected in this zone change application and in line with the recent general plan amendment. The proposed C2 zoning designation is intended to provide community retail and service type activities that conveniently serve area residents. Surrounding zoning includes open space to the east, C3 to the south, open space and R110 to the west, and R110 to the north. Looking to the roadways, Antigua Lane is planned to continue south, intersecting with George Washington Boulevard. The C2 request is for the purpose of developing the land into a commercial development. If this zone change is approved, the next step for this development would require the applicant to obtain conditional use permit approval, which would show site-specific details for the commercial development and continuing the buffering effect, transitioning between the residential to the commercial. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval, and this will go on to City Council based on the findings stated in staff report. That concludes staff involvement. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
All right, commissioners, do we have any questions for Eldon at this time? if we don't have any comments at this time, it is a public hearing. I'll just open this up to the public. If there's anyone that would like to make a comment regarding this item, please come forward now.
Had the group that was here before, they were pretty passionate. I wasn't able to come to the last time that this was brought up, and my understanding was this group recommended not to approve the last one. Is that correct? Twice. Is it still you're leaning to not approve this request as well? I just want to save time. Oh, sorry. This is Russell Hinton. I live on Galilee Way, just down the road.
I like the way you think.
Maybe we should always do it that way, right?
Yeah.
As much as I love coming, yeah.
It's, the meeting is a process.
I get that.
And so we really need to hear the public comment and then have discussion with each other before I think most of us would feel comfortable telling you, like, well, here's what I'm leaning towards, I think.
But you've all done your research on this. You've heard public comment already come into your offices. I know I've emailed a couple of you already. I know multiple people in our areas and our neighborhoods have. I know I'd have a bigger group, but it's last week before school starts. Everybody's on vacation in my neighborhood, so they're not able to attend. So I guess I'm hoping that you would have the same recommendation and that we would have a good showing at the city council to be able to rebut and not have these kind of changes happen so close to our residential areas, so close to schools, the new park that's there. There's a lot of kids that are already on that street that's already becoming a busier street with the new interchange coming down that road. I would ask that you keep that same mentality and keeping this as low as possible and not approving or requesting to approve or recommending a higher usage just to keep it safer for our neighborhoods. So,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, good evening. Chris Kurz, I live on Majestic Drive. Got my letter last week that this was coming back in front of you folks for yet another zoning upgrade. I'm literally dumbfounded and amazed that this was brought to be turned into a commercial, C2 commercial, after the Planning Commission had recommended the City Council just a couple of months ago against doing this because it's completely against what's stated in the general plan, proximity to the low density and medium density residential in the area. If you read the City of Washington general plan, it gives specific guidelines as far as what needs to be done with buffering between types of residential, types of commercial, going from very low density, medium density, denser than that, then going to neighborhood commercial, to community commercial, C2, et cetera, et cetera. And if you go back to the original general plan and what was listed for this here, everybody in the neighborhood that came to the 3 previous Planning Commission meetings that expressed all of their concerns about this, and the Planning Commission agreed. We all stated, listen, we're not against commercial development, but develop according to the plan, right? General plan stated there was going to be neighborhood commercial extending that far. Everybody agreed that's a great idea. And somebody comes in, buys the land, goes in front of the Planning Commission, multiple residents show up for 3 separate meetings. All of you have heard everybody from us. I presented my written materials last time. I wasn't going to bother doing it this time. I'm not going to waste your time with it. But it's amazing to me that this is being presented now, knowing that everybody was against it just a couple of months ago, and it got shoved through, particularly by one city council member who took a stand. Apparently, I was told that everybody on the city council read our comments, understood the neighborhood's objections to it, understood the Planning Commission was against it, and yet one particular council member decided to take charge right away at that meeting and push this through. Ironically, with the same last name of the person that owned the lot above it previously. It's very strange to me. A lot of coincidences going on here. With this here, the bottom line is you have very low density housing, according to our own general plan, and when people bought their properties there, they were under the impression that the general plan would be followed, and if the commercial was introduced, it would be feathered in accordance with the plan, as the city of Washington's been doing in other areas. They have a developer coming in, they buy this lot.
They told all of you in the last 3 city planning commission meetings that there were no plans for this site yet. They had no idea what they wanted to do. But if you go on the Collier commercial real estate site, they have a listing for this property. And on that listing, they have 5 retail buildings, a gas station, and a 2-story office building set up as a proposed development for this parcel. That's going to be right next to homes that are low density, very low density, with a neighborhood infrastructure and road network not designed to accommodate that. This is common sense that it doesn't fit with the neighborhood. I don't mean to yell, I'm not upset with you folks, but it's a frustrating situation when you think about it, because common sense would dictate that the general plan, it was originally stated that at the intersection of SR 7 and George Washington Boulevard, that's where your community commercial was going to be, and it was going to feather out from there. And by the time we got to this lot here, there was going to be a trace of neighborhood commercial, then going to your medium density, low density, very low density, in accordance with how all of this was originally orchestrated. People bought their homes there. These homes, they've lived there for, ourselves, 8 years. We've got neighbors that lived on the street 15 years, 20 years. All bought with the anticipation that this was going to be a neighborhood that was going to be developed in accordance with the general plan. They spent their savings on these homes with the anticipation that the neighborhood was going to maintain a certain level of neighborhood, right? Not a commercial district, not a crazy amount of commercial traffic going in and out. Again, I could hammer on the whole family neighborhood aspect. You've heard this all before, but it's the truth. We've got kids playing in the street right there. These lots, kids play on their dirt bikes. I know it's a private property, but it's been going on for years now. None of that's going to change. The kids are still going to be in the streets. The neighborhood's going to be the way it is, but now you're going to put, potentially, according to this proposal under the real estate ad, 5 commercial buildings, 2-story office building, and a gas station right next to very low density, medium density housing, where your own general plan specifically states there needs to be appropriate feathering. All of you voted correctly last time, in my opinion. You took the time to listen to everybody, you heard everybody's comments, you read their comments, and you made the recommendation of the city council to not allow this to pass. I'm asking you to do that again. It would be consistent with your behavior in the past, just a couple of months ago. We're not talking about years here. There hasn't been changes. This is getting shoved through. I'm not sure why it's getting shoved through the way it is, but it certainly is. And it's amazing to me that it's the same players, time and time again, behind us, pushing it through. The lot just above it used to be owned by somebody with the last name of Belliston. Belliston on the city council was the one leading the charge to push this change through at the city council meeting 2 months ago. What's going on here, folks? I'm not a magician, but this is a hell of a magic trick going on. That's where I'm at with it. I appreciate you taking time to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, Liz Fisher. I live on Galilee Way. I brought my notes so I don't forget anything. I concur with everything that Chris says. I think that my whole household does. I don't believe that putting low-density housing or putting C2 commercial, which is even more commercial than the C1 that was pushed through, makes sense in our area. If you look at the folks on, I believe it's Rolling Ridge and Mountain Vista that goes into those lots that are not, there's no proposal for them or anything going on with them yet, there's still ambiguity as to what's going on with those lots. I know those folks are very concerned about traffic in that area and what might be developed between this proposed commercial C2 or C1 even and what's currently there. The general plan does recommend, if I read it correctly, 1 level between different zone types. This, if I'm counting and looking at the chart correctly, again, I don't know a lot about this, would be 4 to 5 levels above the low density that it would be directly next to. And I think that I mean, I understand the housing crisis that we're in, affordability crises. So the medium density or even a high density, to me, made perfect sense in what's designated as LD and MD right now. However, and that was also what was used at the city council meeting to sway the other council members that we can have somewhat affordable housing here. Well, if we're taking that R1 designation and the different things away, then where's the housing going? It's just a C2 commercial center. So I think that that housing need needs to be met and that accountability needs to be there for that. Mountain Vista, I figured that out. And also, like what Chris said, there is a rendering of what they would like this property to look like. I don't know what the C2 would look like, and I think the neighbors would really like to know that. We were told at the city council meeting that if it was approved, then the next step would be, I believe, a conditional use type approval or something like that, where they would present plans, the developer would, as to what would go in that area. And instead, now we have another rezone request for an even higher level of commercial. So, but why this piece of land? And also, when does the bumping up stop? When it's completely industrial? I mean, if we can go up a zone or two designation every time, who's to say that there won't be a power plant there soon? I mean, when does that stop? So I just wanted to thank everybody for their time.
All right, thank you for your comment. Do you have any other?
Hey there, Brandon Sigurd. I live on Majestic, just above there. Appreciate what you guys do. Last time, again, like Chris said, I think you guys voted correctly. I guess my concern is, you know, it feels like this is kind of a charade almost. We put forth our concerns, and you guys actually agree with it, and then the city council, who there's obviously some corrupt members there, only worry about our developers. I mean, the conflict of interest is insane. I guess my only question is, I think last time you said, basically your job is to, you didn't say this in your words, this is what I take from it, is that your job is to basically absorb our ire, and then they vote however they want, and they don't have to listen to any complaints from us. And so it seems like you guys are, like, your point is to just absorb our anger, and then we have no say or no ability to do anything, because even if you agree with us, they do whatever they want. So just my question is, what other recourse do we have other than coming here? And it seems like a waste of our time and your time, because they're just going to do whatever they want. So I guess my question is, if like, you let us know if there's any other recourse we have, if there's a city council meeting we can go to, they should be able to hear from us, because it seems obviously very easy for them to hear from you and do whatever they want. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment.
James Leonard, Galilee Way. I'm not sure where to start. Here we are again. The same zone, and we've gone even further into more commercial, higher density. It just doesn't make any common sense anymore. The other thing is that the underlying factor here is that the buck stops here with you people. Actually, it stops with city council as to the habitability and sustainability of life here in Washington County. And we've already got estimates like Maricopa County, Phoenix. Estimate is 20 to 40 years, it will be uninhabitable. We live in a desert. We cannot, our infrastructure can't support it. And where are we going to get the water? Where are we going to build the utilities? The control is in your hands completely. You are with our children, our grandchildren. Are they going to be able to live here? Not if this continues to happen. It's just somewhere somebody has to take control of this growth. And that's it. So the buck does stop here.
All right, thank you for sharing. Is there anyone else? Oh, here we go.
Hi, Brent Bellinger. I'm on Rolling Ridge Lane, one of the streets that butts right up against this area of land that we've been talking about. And it's difficult because I had a lot of things I want to say, but honestly, the people before me have pretty much said a lot, so I don't want to repeat everything they said. I agree with everything that has been discussed and everything that they've talked about. I would say the one thing, I'll make it personal. We moved here a few years ago from Pittsburgh, where when you went out into the street, you didn't see kids playing. Like, kids didn't feel comfortable playing out there because they'd either get mugged or kidnapped or whatever, right? It wasn't a very nice place. We moved here because of the just beautiful, the relationships, the people. You walk out at night, any time of the day, kids are playing in the streets and enjoying it, right? And they just feel comfortable from like 3 years old up to a teenager. They're just out enjoying life. And it is like stepping back in time, right? It's what makes St. George and our area of Washington Fields so livable and lovable, right? We live on a street that kind of, like I said, it butts up to this lot. It's kind of a dead end right now because the street hasn't been progressed, and it's supposed to be more residential houses put into that area, into that lot, and that'll be right next to the other areas that they've discussed. I don't want to lose all of that, right? I think adding in the Wheels Park was beautiful as well. You just expanded the neighborhood into making it even more friendly for people to want to move in here, bring their families, enjoy the park. The school's close by. There's a school crossing right down the street from us. Like, all these things make it a family-friendly area. As you add this commercial development into it, I get it. Close to 7 is great, right? All that stuff close to 7, it makes sense. You're coming off 7. There's a lot of things you want to put there that would make it accessible to people, whatever it is you want to put there, right? But the closer you get to these residential areas where we're at, it just makes no sense. And you're going to completely just dilute and degrade any reason why someone like us would move here from the East Coast and want to move into this neighborhood, right? We spent a lot of money buying this home, put all of our savings into it, and all of our neighbors agree with us, right? It's going to lose the benefits. Our next door neighbor, actually, after he'd heard about some of the stuff, he already moved and sold his house and left. So I don't want to see that happening around us. We love our neighbors and love the people there and the kids there. So that's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tina. I live on Rolling Ridge Lane. I just appreciate all you guys listening to us, and I know it's running late and you guys are probably starving. But I actually know a personal friend of ours who lives down the street whose son was run over. He was in 3rd grade last year. And praise the Lord, he's okay. He broke his leg. He had a concussion. But the concern is, of course, the kids, right? It's not just, home values. They're going to drop. We all know that. Commercial property, gas stations, auto mechanics. It's going to bring in transient folks looking for trouble. We know that. But my concern is the kids. There's Wheels Park there. It's a great park. The kids love it. It's empty today because it's so hot. But that's going to fill up. We've seen that. On opening day, there were thousands of people there just enjoying this beautiful park, right? There's no stop sign. It's a dangerous intersection, and there's increased traffic from 7, and we get that, we understand that. But this is just going to bring, I think, a lot more accidents for our children. And that's a big concern and there's so many families. We hear them at night running around, golf carting. They're in the dark and they're playing, and it's really nice. It's safe. We live in a really safe neighborhood, and we love that about our neighborhood. And we love our neighbors. So, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, looks like there are no others, so we'll close the public hearing. And then I was looking for comments. There were a couple of questions that I feel like we should answer and maybe a fact check. The one, is there a way to confirm that there is no connection to our city councilman with the property adjoining? And then the second one that stood out to me was, I'll think of it. There was one other question that came, if they have a different course of action, if they come and they share their their comments here, but what is decided here doesn't make it to the city council, what options or what choices they have as a further pursuit.
In regards to the name, according to county records, the previous owner of that land is Bellison. We've had no interactions with the Bellison that we're familiar with. And typically that wouldn't be the case. If there is a relation, that would be known. I would just encourage the gentleman to make that comment, to reach out to Councilman Belliston and dig further rather than make an assumption that hasn't been vetted out. There may or may not. I mean, we're all related in one way, shape, or another with the last name. There may be a connection, but closely related, I am not aware of any connection or push to be against or for this development on my end. Comments that are made here, all comments that are received from the Planning Commission move on to City Council. We include the public comments and the comments here, the minutes, they directly go into City Council packet, and they're well adept to reading those and in tune with these comments.
Thank you, Eldon. I did have one other question too, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure if I remember being at the meeting when this was changed, but I do remember the parcel that's right to the left that is left in gray. What is the current zoning of that chunk? And why is it left off of the color? Oh, it's gray.
So this piece
So not yet
here,
determined.
correct. Yes, this one is properly general planned, is not yet determined. It will change, and we don't know what it's going to be.
Did we not have, I guess we've had other, okay, part of that, so I must have missed that meeting.
It's owned by another party.
And this came before us, right? With,
This whole, this.
well, that other chunk.
No, we have,
Oh, this is the same
we
chunk.
haven't seen anything on that.
Okay.
We've asked, but we haven't.
One more note on the comments. Public comments are held here with the Planning Commission at the mayor's discretion. I do want to make it known that if you do show up and the mayor feels the need to hear public comments, I've been in those meetings and there's been several times that public comment have been allowed. The mayor and city council leadership are very in tune with hearing and wanting you to speak. So again, I encourage you to come to the council and make that happen.
Would they need to approach them prior to let them know that they had, maybe it'd be best to approach them before the meeting, right? And
That's a good
and make
thought.
that determination.
Yes.
So I'd look for any comments from our commissioners, and if not, to make a motion.
Well, I mean, I guess I have a quick comment, which is I still don't like it. To me, it still seems out of place. It's still pushing commercial up into the residential too far. It feels forced. And so, I mean, I look at that and I think the same thing as in the last case where it was like, there was one more lot on that cul-de-sac. It's like, dude, that just needs to be completed. This, I look at that and I'm like, what is that doing? Why are they pushing that and they want C2 that much further in? Like, I'm a fan of commercial. It saves us taxes. When businesses come in, they pay more taxes to our community that funds all the things that we love. And in the past, Washington City, decades ago, repelled business on purpose. And everybody regrets it now. And I think the city council is tuned into that. And they're like, okay, we definitely need to be friendly to commercial. So I understand that, and I think we do need to be friendly to commercial. It saves all of us money, even though, on the whole, sometimes when it bumps right next to us, it's annoying and it's a pain and it hits our property values. But taken on the whole and the balancing of all the interests, we need commercial. This, I don't think we need. I don't like the way that pushes that far up into the residential. And so for me, that's kind of my thought. And I'm curious if anybody else who was opposed to this before is suddenly now feeling like, well, something changed. And if it did, I'm curious what? Help me understand what I'm not seeing.
Well, I would say, candidly, I'm in the same place I was, 2-3 months ago. I was surprised to see it show up on the agenda as well. the give a mouse a cookie theory, if we're pushing up now. Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing from the applicant if they could enlighten us a little bit as far as, considering we're not talking about any conditional use, or we're not looking at anything to this point. We've kind of taken a step back and now say, okay, now let's go for more zoning. So I would be interested to hear from the applicant if they'd like to share anything with us.
While they're coming up, if they do make it up, so just some insight here. The general plan was changed by City Council. They approved that, which then, general plans, very high level, the direction that we want to move with the zoning, and it allows certain types of zoning. So this general plan is CCOM. So the zoning that is allowed here under CCOM is AP, C1, or a C2 use. There is some zoning vesting there, but if we're wanting to get away from a C2 use, they may have to go back and change the general plan.
So you're saying that the general plan was updated to be CCOM for that whole square that's currently CCOM, and so right now. Okay, so help me understand. I might be missing a little something here. So it was half residential at the top, and then it was commercial at the bottom. And what happened with City Council? Can you just catch me up on the process? I thought I understood, but maybe I didn't.
Yeah, they heard those comments, the feedback, and they toiled with it. They went back and forth, discussed comments. They felt they've split middle ground here, reducing that north boundary to the property line of the residential backyards off of Galilee Way, so there was no overlap from the commercial to the residential to that western property.
Can you pull up that map and kind of show me the way things stand right now?
So the original general
to the right. Scoot over. Sorry, not to interrupt. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but is that how it is right now?
That's zoning. That's what the property's vested in right now. The applicant could build single-family residential to the north, 10,000 square foot lots.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. So the general plan's been updated so that it could accommodate commercial, but this question is about zoning. Yeah.
So here's the problem, and this is why we as a planning commission opposed this so strongly before, is that the general plan was set before any of these houses went in, and it's been there a long time, and that was the whole point, because this was way out where no one had built before, and and so a lot of thought went into it at that point in time. The problem with it is that if you have a certain general plan, okay, that entitles you to ask for the zoning that falls under that general plan, right? So where it's CCOM, they're basically entitled to ask for, AP, C1, or C2. And if they meet the requirements, we have to give it to them. That's the thing. And so the time to have been able to stop this was before when we denied it. Now that it's already got general plan, we can say we don't like it, but legally they have the right to ask. The general plan has already been changed, which is why I and most everyone else was so opposed to it. When you change the general plan, that's before they change the general plan. They don't have the absolute right to they can ask for it, but they don't have the right to it. Now that he's got the general plan, they've got vesting, and that's the dilemma. The difference in C1 versus C2 is minimal, that most people here wouldn't even notice the difference. I mean, you're really talking C2 lets you have, outdoor displays for your retail shops. I mean, that's about the biggest difference in C1 and C2. They can ask for a gas station with a conditional use in either zone anyways, so that it wouldn't have changed any of that. So the whole idea of going to C2 is not the issue. The issue that bothers me is the one that we can't change, is the fact that that all that it pushed back up into the residential area. You know, the dilemma is that we can't do anything about it. You know, and that's the trouble. I mean, the only things we can do, which previously the applicant had said that this was the plan, but you know, the street coming in from the left, we can put conditions on there that has to be a cul-de-sac. It doesn't come through to the commercial area. Same thing with the street, you know, up above it, that it can't push through, and so that way, the residential, even though it's adjacent, the streets don't go into the commercial, and that's typically what you would do on commercial anyways. You wouldn't blend them together, and that's about it. That's the thing.
So we have different levels of discretion as the planning commission when it comes to general plan changes versus when it comes to zoning changes.
We can say no to general plan,
but
a lot easier, because it's discretional. With zone changes, it's what
either
do
it
they
meets
have?
the legal requirements or it doesn't, and if it does, then we have a legal,
Yes.
then we just basically have to let them do that.
That's why as a
I'd
commissioner,
forgotten
I was
that.
really frustrated.
Unfortunate.
You know, that it got approved at the city council.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to approve it, but.
No, we can still,
But
well, legally, he's got vesting rights to ask for it, so.
you can ask.
Seems very interesting. Wait just 1 second. It does just seem so interesting that so often we see the recommendations for the buffering and this goes against every bit of that.
Right.
So it's like what is going on here, and what was thought of, and those streets that are coming down that are residential streets, do you just dead end them now because you're going to be dumping into commercial, or you tie into a heavily commercial? That does seem just a little bit strange.
They have a legal right to ask for whatever zoning changes that fall within that designation, but we can still recommend no. Okay, that's what I'll do then.
We did close the public hearing, but you did have a comment. I don't know, do you just want to take a quick second and
pull up the intersection of Washington Fields and George Washington Boulevard? You have 4 big corners there that you have, to my knowledge, you have now changed into commercial.
Yeah, those are commercial, correct?
If you can find those on there.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Keep going.
We can pull those up, but yeah, I think we all are
Intersection of Washington Fields and George Washington.
Yeah.
Those 4 corners are quarter of a mile from us, maybe a third of a mile. You're talking about the need for commercial. All 4 of those corners, have you not now zoned commercial? That's my understanding that you have. 3 of the
4 are zoned for commercial.
3 of the 4 corners are zoned for commercial. That's a quarter or a third of a mile from us. Why do we need more commercial up where we are?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you talk about the convenience of commercial, needing commercial, there it is, right there.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to consider that, too.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Gentlemen and ladies, excuse me.
All right, if there are no further comments, just look for a motion. Oh, the applicant, sorry, I forgot. Commissioner Davis.
Jason Smith, representing the applicant. He said you had questions, Commissioner Davis.
I was just curious if you had anything that you wanted to share to substantiate your request.
Well, I just remind the commission that George Washington Boulevard's an arterial road. Since the general plan had been approved the previous time holistically, Long Valley has gone in. This will be a major intersection. This will be a major access for Long Valley, which is thousands of homes. That this is, in the future, will be that this is the first intersection off of the Southern Parkway, the first full intersection that they can use per UDOT requirements on George Washington Parkway. So it is the first commercial intersection that you're going to have. You won't be able to access prior to that because of the off-ramp. So those are just the two things that I would let you know. In regard to conflict of interest, just so you know, the owner of this entire parcel, he's owned it for at least 15 years. And I know he's owned it prior to Sonoma Court and Antigua going in initially, so.
Jason, just out of curiosity, how much space would it take to allow for correct buffering? Say next to the parkway, you do have that heavy commercial and you have that. How much typical space would you see between that commercial to a residential in a different circumstance?
In a different, I think, I don't know. I mean, I think you want I'm just trying, like backyards, you probably want to go separate. You want to go down one before you go to another. This is difficult because you're kind of in a weird spot there, because that first intersection, that's your first major intersection. So that's your first commercial intersection. So so now you say, okay, well, what can you do for commercial there? And then still get your buffering. And so we brought it down so that it wasn't across the street or anything from low density. We've been committed to cul-de-sac that if that's what is necessary. But I don't know. To be honest with you, sometimes I see no buffering and sometimes I see very little. So I think that this is a good plan. Based on you have directly adjacent, you have nothing developed directly adjacent, which will provide the ability to buffer the project. You do touch the corner there on the one lot, but you have that ability to buffer that, other than the one corner lot.
Are there other questions for the applicant?
No, again, I look at this and I see no, I lost my screen, but I don't see enough space between, the residential above it. And even if it's medium, if it's going to be still to the west, you're still very close to that low density. And I know that we had not been comfortable with that when it came before us before. And I'm still not comfortable with encroaching on that.
I understand that. We represented that we were moving towards CCOM to get a C2 zoning. That's how we've always represented it. That wasn't something that we were hiding it about. That's the reason that we changed the neighborhood commercial to the CCOM. So that's why we're asking for the C2 zoning.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jason. Yeah, if there aren't any other comments, or just look for a motion.
This is Commissioner Ure in regards to Z26-14. I move that we recommend denial of the rezone to this lot. And do I need anything to that?
Pass it on to City Council.
Same way. For reasons we've discussed in prior sessions about our discomfort with pushing commercial into residential that far.
Commissioner Davis, I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a first from Commissioner Ure, a second from Commissioner Davis. Individual voting, Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Tupol.
Aye.
Commissioner Ure.
Aye.
I'm Commissioner Mitchell, and I'm an aye as well. I would just prefer to see a little bit more buffering. I feel like it makes more sense. All right. Our next item is item 4E. This is a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to City Council. Zone change Z-26-15 from open space to industrial I-2 located at Sunrise Valley Industrial Park at approximately the east end of Foundry Drive. Turn time over to Eldon for the description.
The proposed property is approximately 9.14 acres with 5.26 acres. I apologize, that was the last staff report. Let me switch pages here. Here we go. The proposed property is approximately 11.76 acres in size and currently designated as open space. The applicant is proposing to change the zoning designation to I-2, which is industrial. So the general plan map, you can see it's general plan for industrial and the zoning designation map. The proposed zone change is in the Hillside Overlay Zone, which was reviewed by that criteria on December 4th, 2025, and then removed from the Hillside Overlay on January 28th, 2026, with the condition that construction drawings be approved by the Hillside Review Board. On April 20th, 2026, the Hillside Review Board reviewed construction drawings for the proposed development and recommended the proposed construction drawings and easterly cut be approved, noting that drainage mitigation be looked at by the city during the submission of construction drawings to verify drainage is mitigated, and also remind the applicant truck traffic be covered, along with no Jake brakes be used to minimize noise impact to surrounding residential uses. These conditions will be noted during the preliminary plat entitlement process. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-26-15 onto City Council based on the findings stated in staff report. And we learned that in the review of those plans, there was some miscommunication with this landowner and the adjacent landowners. They thought this was included in the original zone change and general plan, which it was not. So this is just kind of a cleanup to those previous approvals. And I'm happy to answer any more questions you may have at this time.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Eldon at this time? If there are no questions, this is a public hearing, so I invite anybody that's here to discuss this item could come forward now. It doesn't look like there are any comments on this particular item, so we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, if you have any comments, great. If not, look for a motion.
Commissioner Tupou, I'll make a motion, unless there's a question. Do you have a question?
No. Been out there, crawl around, it's dirty.
For Z-26-15, request to rezone approximately 11.76 acres located at approximately the east end of Foundry Drive from the current open space zoning designation to a proposed industrial 2 zoning designation, subject to the recommendations and conditions in the staff report and on to city council for approval.
Commissioner Davis will second that motion.
I have a first by Commissioner Tupou, a second by Commissioner Davis. Individual voting, Anderson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Tupou.
Aye.
You're.
Aye.
I'm a aye as well. That concludes the items on our agenda, so I'd look for a motion for the adjournment.
Commissioner Tupou, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a first by Commissioner Tupou, second by Commissioner Ure. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll now take approximately a 5-minute break before starting the land use meeting. Welcome to our land use meeting. I gotta open up my agenda. I first would look for a motion to approve our agenda.
This is Commissioner Davis. I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
It's Commissioner Tupou, I second that.
All right, you have a first by Commissioner Davis, a second by Commissioner Tupou. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I now look for a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
This is Commissioner Ure. I move that we approve the Land Use Authority minutes from July 15th.
Second.
All right, I have a first by Commissioner Ure, a second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, do we have any declarations or, and I can't say that word, so I'm going to try this time.
Abstentions?
Abstentions or conflicts?
No.
All right. Our first item is item 4A, public hearing and consideration to approve a preliminary plat for Kiwi at Alea, located at approximately Cattail Way and Villa Way, applicant Alea Development Corporation. Turn the time over to Sebastian for our description.
All right, thank you. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat for the Kayowe Atalaya subdivision located at approximately Cattail Way and Via Way. This subdivision is proposing 46 lots on an area of 6.09 acres, which equates to about 7.55 dwelling units per acre. The townhomes are proposed on the lots, with each lot owner having a limited common area to the front and rear of the townhomes, so kind of your typical pad lots. As shown in the exhibit, 143 parking spaces are provided, which surpasses the 118 minimum required amount. The zoning designation at this location is planned community development, and the zoning directly to the north is R16 and PCD to the west, south, and east. Lastly, this subdivision is in the nightly rental overlay zone, which would allow short-term rentals on a nightly basis. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning, and the request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances for this location. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends the Land Use Authority approve the preliminary plat based on the findings as outlined in staff report. I can answer any questions, and it appears applicants here as well. They can answer more too.
All right, does anyone have a question for Sebastian? All right, doesn't look like we have any additional questions. This is a public hearing, so I'll open this up to the public. If there's anyone here for this item, feel free to come and speak now.
Hi, my name is Maureen Martindale, and I live at Crossroads. I've been there 6 years, and Crossroad area was formed and developed in 2018, so it has been 8 years. All of you are probably aware of that Washington Fields Road that has no landscape, where the retention area is just a hole of dirt and weeds and erosion, and we've been fighting this for a long time. This is my 4th time in front of a council for the same purpose. I don't have a problem with developments, new developments. I don't like that it's the high density, I think, but I do have a problem with going forward with anything else until that problem on Washington Fields and the problem in the retention area is taken care of. The neighbors that their house backs up to this Washington Fields, I think I sent pictures, so you probably saw those pictures and how the erosion is so bad, but what they're dealing with, they cannot even use their backyards, and they are small backyards. But the things that they deal with is the dust, weeds and overgrowth, garbage, debris, erosion, poor drainage, stormwater runoff, deterioration of the ground, and this lowers their property value and all of ours. It looks horrible. It's an eyesore. And the erosion is now severe enough that it's beginning to undercut the road. And during the heavy rain, the water flows through the area and continues to worsen that damage. It is affecting the backyards of many of those people. This is becoming a safety and an infrastructure issue, and the action should not wait until more serious damage occurs to the roads, the homes, and the utilities. In February 2024, the new owners acquired the Stuckey Farm property. We have seen a lot of development and beautification in the areas behind Crossroads subdivision, the Lakeview area, with lakes and landscape and multi-million-dollar homes being built, along with Zion Shores. So we see that dirt's being pushed and that improvements are being made, but there are no improvements that we have been asking for. And we, as homeowners, have been paying our HOA dues, which are a little under $175 a month, and some of that is for common area. I think the retention area is a common area, and that we're just paying for the dirt. Our mailbox is right there, and it is an eyesore. The weeds have been taller than 6 feet at times. They have gone through and cut down some of the weeds recently. I'm asking the city to ensure that the existing infrastructure, the drainage and the maintenance problems are addressed as part of the development process. Residents who have lived there for 8 years should not be overlooked while new development moves forward. The retention area has never been properly completed and is an absolute eyesore, leaving concerns about where the water is supposed to go when we receive significant rain. And we have already seen ongoing erosion and drainage problems where the dirt clogs the drain and ends up all over the street. And I'm not sure who cleans the street up. I think they have a skidder that does that often. So as homeowners, we were advised in March of this year that a bid for the development was going out for a landscape company, yet nothing has been done, or there has been no communication about that since. What is the plan and the timeline is what we want to know for completing Washington Fields Road and the retention area improvements. We need curb, gutters, and appropriate landscape. I'm not sure how this land got how it can be unfinished when all the other neighborhoods that I see started their retention area, and along the road has to be landscaped and approved. And yet we have been asking for 8 years and nothing has happened. I respectfully ask that the commission not approve the additional development without first requiring, as previously promised, a clear written plan that identifies responsible parties and timelines for correcting the existing infrastructure, the drainage, the erosion, and maintenance issues affecting Crossroads and Washington Fields Road, and the retention area. We have been patient for 8 years, and we are asking for assurance that the problems affecting the current residents will be addressed before further development proceeds. I'm not asking, I'm not pleading, I am begging. I have done everything I know to do. I've done petitions and sent them to the cities. I've come to city council. I've met with my neighbors in my yard. We've had meetings. we talk about it all the time. We're all tired of it, and we really need to have something done, and we need the Washington City's help. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
My name's Dan Cox. I think I stood before you a couple of years ago and asking for the same thing, basically I would be repeating what she said, because nothing has been done since then. And we see a lot of construction, like she said, back on the backside, and we just feel like somebody needs to help us. And we've done what we can, talking to people. And we just get, okay, we'll do it type thing. But we're at a point where people are talking about moving, and then if they do move, they're going to put a big cost on them, because we don't have our own HOA with them, and so they're going to ding us for things like that. So we're hearing things that are making us more negative. I mean, we love where we live. And our neighbors and people, but it's really getting frustrating, and we need your help. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like I want to just clarify that this is not a new development. This is a plan that's already been approved. They're just now looking to present their final plans for a certain phase of the project. So ideally, as these preliminary plats come to us, am I wrong in making this statement? It is a movement forward in cleaning up and finishing out what's already been presented.
Yes and no. This is just land use where they're just asking for a change within their PCD. What they're talking about, we had a big, huge meeting about this a year or so ago.
At the beginning.
When the new owners purchased it and they came in, there were a lot of homeowners here, and he got up and made certain, statements or recommendations as to what they were going to do, and they had a bunch of landscapers, and it was going to take time and
to clean up the road and clean up the frontage.
I don't know what they've done since then, and I'm not entirely sure what we as a planning committee or as a land use authority even have over this, but I do remember talking about it, and they supposedly had a plan. But I would say you're gonna have more luck talking to the city councilman in the back than you will us about this. So.
Yeah, being able to make conditions.
I would go talk to him right now in the back.
This item is decided tonight with the land use, whether it be approve or denial. And Brandy, the applicant, I saw her here, she can speak to the landscaping. Sean, their development teams reached out to me and gave me an update I think it was about a month ago, expressing their concern for delay in the project. They were committed, they committed to council to start on those landscaping improvements this summer. Sean emailed me about a month ago, staying in contact, saying, hey, we're a little bit behind schedule, and here's why. The problems that were noted were the landscaping in the center medians, the sleeves that were installed or should have been installed were not installed, or they could not find those sleeves. They're having to rebore those sleeves into the landscape medians. The homes that butt up to Washington Fields Road have pushed their storm drains to the road, and the landscaping bids that were presented to them, the landscaper is not going to install that landscaping until the drainage pipes get relocated to the front of the home, so that installed landscaping wouldn't be washed out. By no way am I for or against this development. I just wanted to make that conversation known, that the application has reached out to the city and expressed concern about their being behind schedule on starting those landscaping. And Brandy may have a little more additional insight to that as well.
Yeah, and my thought is that I feel like the concerns are mainly about the cleanup of the existing, the roads or whatever. If I'm wrong, if there are any other comments that are different than, getting the road and the frontage cleaned up, if it's directed specifically to this project, if you could please come up.
Hi, my name is Clarine Hansen. My husband and I live on 4784 South Crossroads, and we've been there since April of 2018. Had many false promises. Our house backs on Stuckey Farms Parkway, and the back of our house, that parkway, was not landscaped in any form or fashion until 2 years after we had been there. There were already great areas of erosion and things like that occurred during those 2 years. When they landscaped that area, they didn't fill in the dirt, the ruts that were there. They put in some plants, and then they dumped rocks. They put in no water source for those bushes or trees. I caught them twice on camera hooking a hose from our house to water the plants they put on that. And then it's not a matter of cleanup, it's a matter of even doing the initial landscaping for that retention basin. We don't call it a retention basin, we call it a drainage pit, because that's all it's been, to collect weeds and dirt. And then the landscaping there. The new developers are not amenable. You call them, mostly you're ignored. They are not kind when you finally get a hold of someone. They're actually disdainful. If you could see some of the awful, awful letters I've gotten regarding drainage, I had to hire an attorney to get them to stop. Please do something where we have no other recourse. This has been going on for 8 years and 5 months. They can't keep up with anything new. Even the new lakes that they've been developing, they have green algae and green weeds in them. That's not a plus. And they shouldn't be allowed to go on to new projects until they complete the ones that they're obligated to do. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you for your comment. And Brandy, maybe let's hold off just a little minute, because if there are other comments that need to be made before we have the applicant or Brandy address it.
Hi, my name is Susan Cox, and I think the one thing that I want to express is that our subdivision development is a representation of your city, and I don't think you people would want your city to look like what we're living in, because it is nasty, awful, and we probably, last year, maybe a year before, we went through this exact same thing. You guys all shook your head, we know, but nobody will do anything. And somebody said, well, what do you expect? And I said, somebody needs to say, no, you're not going to develop anything. We're not going to pass anything until you get these people squared away. I mean, we're in our retirement homes. We can't pick up and move. We can't, at 75, you're there to stay. And we see our HOAs go up, and we see nothing get done. And like my husband said, now if you do move, they're going to charge you a % of your sale of your home for moving out of Stuckey Farms, or I want to Alea, whatever. That's what we've named it. But these people aren't really, they're not into us people. They're into all the new development and all the new things. They're forgetting about what their job was. And they told us at the farmhouse that their first priority was going to be what we needed done. And that has not happened. So it's very frustrating, and it's a ghetto-y area out there. And I think as a city, you guys would want better, because you wouldn't want to live out there either, especially behind Washington Fields Road. So anyway, there were some really good pictures submitted. Didn't you, Maureen, submit pictures? Yeah.
Yeah, we
So-
have those.
And I hope you guys look at those, drive out there, go for, an ice cream and take a drive. Thank you.
You guys sell ice cream out there? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to speak or address that item? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Brandy, you want to come up and share with us? And
I've been here for 3 hours, so yeah. So Brandy Walker, representing the applicant tonight. There, on behalf, we understand the residents' complaints. We've heard it. Just a reminder, the developer here tonight, this is not adjacent to or even a part of. However, they inherited the Crossroads problems. They inherited Washington Fields problems when they purchased the property. So they are actively trying to fix. I've been on this development since forever, whatever, but when the old developer was under the control of who developed the Crossroads, drain pipes were allowed to go out the back, which is eroding the Fields Road because it's not been done. So they have sent notices. The HOA has noticed 12 homes in Crossroads that they need to fix their drainage, which is by city code, putting it to the street, not the street behind them, but the street that their house fronts. So they're in the process of getting those homeowners under compliance. We were required and requested by the council to come back and present to them a landscaping plan a couple months ago, which we did. And to give these homeowners here tonight some hopeful positivity, they are phase 1. That detention basin on the corner of Stuckey Farms and Washington Fields Road is part of the phase 1 landscaping. There's been challenges. We've been meeting and working with Public Works. All the medians out there in that road have no conduits. There's no power, there's no water, so there's no way to truly landscape them. So in order for a landscaper to come in and do a good job, a homeowner complained about them throwing in some rock and some plants. That's not what the intent is. This developer has a cohesive, beautiful plan that they need to install and want to install. This is the gateway to Washington City. You come off the Parkway and this is it. They own hundreds of acres here. They want this development to have a nice, upscale feel. It's around the farmhouse. So they want this to be good. But the amount of money put in out there to build infrastructure of roads, to build the detention basins. Stuckey Farms is now complete. It wraps around to Groves. They're in the process of widening Washington Fields South. They're in the process of building red slopes. So a lot of money is going into roadways. Not that we're pushing landscape aside. The park behind Crossroads just got completed with, I don't know how many, several hundred feet of trail system went in. Meadows Park has been a challenge. Again, that's an inherited problem. And that park has been revamped to beautification. Well water killed it all off. So there's been a lot going on out there. So the primary focus is to put Washington Fields in a far better view. It's the view corridor. It sells the project. So when the homeowners get their pipes fixed, we've got it. I've seen the plans are done. It just doesn't happen overnight, unfortunately, but that is phase 1 of development as we've met with city council. I know my client has kept the planning department, community development, and the council and city manager up to speed with letters and emails telling him what's happened, hired and fired landscapers, completely shifted gears on all their landscape maintenance out there. So it's been a huge challenge, but again, hopefully that sheds some light. I know the neighbors have contact to the HOA and encourage them to continue to do so, but tonight it's just this plat on the agenda. So I don't know if you have any actual questions related to the KOE. It is the Carolinas beaches. We're shifting gears to the East Coast, but for street naming, but I'm happy to answer any of those that apply to that if there's any other questions.
How many of the nightly rental units does this take up, and how many more do you have after this in the community?
12B, Eldon actually has the exhibit there. This is the nightly rental pod. Breakwater, that's just built, but there's no homes yet, was nightly. And then Zion Shore, which was just built, but no homes yet, is nightly. So you can see the cross-hatching. So the only other nightly is the front stuff in front of the farmhouse, but that's built. So this is theoretically the last nightly neighborhood.
So this one is which number, sorry?
12B.
This is 12B, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Brandy, appreciate the update. Thank you. There was a lot to digest that you just shared. You've been here 3 hours. Sounds like you had a couple of cups of coffee, maybe two, to get you going.
My daughter's
But
back
let
here
me-
angry, so I just picked her up from dance.
But let me take a step back. You mentioned, the drainage in a dozen homes where the HOA, I mean, that's on the homeowner, correct? And that is a linchpin to be able to take care of some of this other stuff. Am I correct in understanding that? So is there a timeline for that? If that's HOA, if that's residents, that's part of the community, and certainly the residents.
According to my client, they have official notice that those need to be resolved. My understanding is when the landscape company came out to inspect and to, put their bids in and look at it, they were the ones who advised that all that needed to be resolved before any install went in. So I don't know if,
So
I
it's a stalemate?
personally have not seen those letters. I don't know if the letters stated a timeline for the homeowner or not. But, we have the 10 days.
So, again, not that it has anything to do with this, I know that's annoying, but just for curiosity's sake, from a practical standpoint, how would you take care of, if they're dumping all their stormwater into this area and causing drainage issues, then yeah, they're causing the problem. But from a practical standpoint, how do you get all those homeowners to then divert it to the front of the street? That seems like it's quite the
feat.
challenge to
Yeah,
make that happen.
I haven't been involved to that level.
It almost seems like it'd be easier to connect them all to a smaller storm drain pipe underneath the landscaping and take it somewhere else, maybe.
And I think to try not to set a precedence out here and get stuff, I know and love the prior developer. I worked with him for 15, 20 years. So I have a lot of respect for him, but he was very much a people's person. And if it went, no big deal. So these guys are the current developer and the new developer that inherited the Crossroads by default, whether they wanted it or not, it came, right? Not that they don't love the homes, just the headaches of the filled road, the headaches of all that. They're trying to get it all organized out there, so to speak. Put all the neighborhoods under.
I just know that would be a real tough dilemma to solve.
Yeah, it's been challenging. I remember, I don't even know how, this is before John's time. How come the Crossroads didn't put the landscape in with that development? I know bonding was in place. Bondings have defaulted. Like anything that has possibly been a hiccup or gone, that would be the area right there. But again, there's a lot of builders out there, and the new builders want to see it beautified, for their marketing and for everything that they have upcoming.
So Brandy, I don't think this is a question for you, and it probably is a question for Thad if he was here. But the comments about if they sell and relocate, the stipulation that comes with them giving a percentage, does anybody know or have an answer on, is that a fact? Is that a legal situation?
To my knowledge, I've not heard anything about that. To my knowledge, this property is not encumbered by a PID or an SSA or any sort of, so I don't know how that would come into play. But again, that's not what we're here for tonight, so I don't want to misspeak on anything either.
Yeah.
Where the applicant's not here to talk directly to it.
Yeah, I think it just is one other thing that where it is the community that's concerned and trying to help them get to a place that they would love to be in. It, the hope is that it does get there, right? As each phase moves forward, eventually it fills out and, more funding or whatever that will help eventually make it a beautiful place. But I get where they've been there for 8 years, it can be frustrating.
Yeah, that area between Villages 2, 3, behind Crossroads and Lakeside, that just finished up. That's the big park the linear trail park that just got developed. I don't know how the neighbors feel about it, but they put the improvements inward, on that one because so the exhibit we sent to council, phase 1, we're rotated 90, but phase 1 is the intersection of Stuckey and Crossroads. Phase 2 picks up the middle of the Fields Road, and then Phase 3 takes it south. So it is working from north to south. And they're even bringing, Primrose has their median landscape, but that's part of the rebeautification too. It'll come out and be all harmonious and contiguous. I can tell you this, every subdivision plan going forward has very stringent landscape plans to it. I won't tell you which developer it was, but some of the trees that the development has spec'd out, they called me, they're like, do we really have to put those? Those are expensive. Like, so yeah, going forward, there's heavy restrictions on landscape, you know, but those are developments that my developer currently has, you know, control over, so to speak, instead of going back and taking care of other properties. But yeah, we're committed to the council.
I mean, just quickly, and not to belabor this, John, from a public works standpoint, at what point does this become, I guess, more of a matter for you?
Where it's eroding
The erosion, yeah, looking at the photos of the erosion, and again, that's a snapshot, I don't know how, you know, exactly where that is, but just, you know, I mean, this is recorded, city council reviews these meetings, so if nothing else, I mean, it's helping elevate the topic.
Yeah, the erosion that they're talking about along Washington Fields Road is in the common area, the slope area right behind the privacy wall, and comes down to the trail, stuff like that, where those are coming out. And yes, that water does, you know, get down, gets across the trail, can get down into the drainage channel that is there. That's part of the city drainage system, because they designed that without curb and gutter through there, kind of more rural section with the asphalt, and then into the rock line ditches and stuff. So there is some erosion that we've seen along there that's, you know, cut the trail, cutting under the trail, stuff like that. So we're not seeing any significant damage to Fields Road from that at this point in time. Not anything that's unusual for the rock line ditch that's along there that's flowing other stormwater. So
thank you.
Yeah, the public hearing's closed, and I think we have a pretty general idea of the concerns that the residents have.
I just had a suggestion.
I think at this point, we understand the concerns of the public, and obviously your comments were made, we've read the emails, and I feel the pain, right? We see it. Anybody that drives out the road recognizes what you're living in and what you're dealing with. Yeah, and that's why it's been brought up, I think, you know, to address it and to talk about it so that hopefully city council is aware of it, and I know they are. I mean, anybody that is familiar with this whole development is aware of it.
The dilemma is this is not, we don't have any authority or leeway whatsoever with this. I mean, just the fact that we're talking about it is just because we're trying to elevate, but it has nothing to do with what they're asking for. Land use authority, which is what this is different than planning commission, which was earlier. Like, we're just basically looking at it and say, does this plan meet the plan that was approved? And that's all. It's just a yes or a no. It has nothing to do with neighbors or community or anything else. And so your best bet with this is if they have an agreement with city council, with the owner, about the landscaping that has nothing to do with this or anything else, that's your only leg to stay on it, is go and talk to city council, and not at a city council, go and talk to the city council, you know, members, and say, what's the status of this agreement? Are you enforcing it, et cetera? That's the only recourse you have, because these meetings here, they don't have anything to do with it. We're not even supposed to be talking about all this stuff. So
yeah.
Well, and candidly, what we're voting on, what we're reviewing and will be voting on, doesn't even go to city council tonight.
it's just, does it meet this plan right here that they've already presented? That's all. So it's not that we don't care or whatever. It's just your only course of action is if they have an agreement with city council and the owner, go talk to city council and see what they're doing to enforce it.
So now focusing on our plat? Their comments, or I look for a motion.
I don't have any issues with the matter at hand. You guys, any further discussion? Well, then for the, this particular matter, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary plat for the Keowee Atalaya subdivision located approximately Cattail Way and Villa Way, subject to the conditions and findings in staff report.
Second.
All right, I have a first by Commissioner Davis, a second by Commissioner Anderson. Individual voting, Anderson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Dupo.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ure.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. All right, item 4B is a public hearing and consideration to approve a final plat partial amendment for Cottontown Village located approximately 300 west, 100 north. And the applicant is Alpha Engineering, and turn the time over to Sebastian for the explanation or description.
The applicant is requesting approval of a partial amendment to the final plat of the Cottontown Village subdivision located at approximately 300 west, 100 north. The reason for this amendment is to remove the northerly portion of lot number 3 on this screen there, which will be added to the Mill Creek subdivision. And that, for clarification, the second item after this is that Mill Creek subdivision. And no other changes are being proposed at this time. Staff has reviewed the proposed final plat partial amendment and finds it conforms to the PUDC zoning of this development. The subdivision also remains in compliance with the subdivision ordinance of the city. Staff recommends the Land Use Authority approve the partial plat amendment to the Cottontown Village subdivision based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions. If you have any questions, I can answer those.
All right, does anybody have any questions?
Sebastian, I just have a question, and hopefully, as I'm looking at this, and it was a little hard for me to get to. Now, do I understand this, that it's almost as though that commercial area, they're giving it back to giving some land to the residential? Is that what we're doing here?
Yes, that is exactly what they're doing. So that little sliver on lot 3, that top left of the screen there, will just be given to lot 4 in the.
They're not using it for the commercial purposes, so they're just going to move it into that development. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here specifically for this item, you can come forward now.
Catherine Staley. It hasn't been mentioned that we also made a change from lot, 3 and 4? When the subdivision got built, the way the house got built on the house, the lot next to us came right there. It came down into our backyard, and they didn't necessarily want the property, and so we built them a wall and a chain link fence to exchange for the property. And so that's got to be changed too, so that we can get it. Oh, okay. Well, I haven't got anything in front of me that tells me what's going on. So I just want to make sure we cover all the bases so I can be done with this. But evidently, well.
Maybe you're going to help us speed this up, and we can just.
No. You've had enough of that tonight. We'll just go with this. But years ago, we built our home 48 years ago. So all the time, we understood that when the road was abandoned, There was a road there 48 years ago. I mean, it said it on the Washington map. But it was abandoned, and everyone else, the property went to their property. But somehow this didn't get put in with us. It got put in with George and Kathy and Cottontown Village. And for years, we thought we owned that. We planted trees down in there, and we're just trying to get all of our ducks in a row so we can die, so our kids don't have to go through this. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
And so, do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so. Thanks, Catherine.
So I have a question with this. So I'm just looking on Google Maps so these lots here, lots 4, 5, 6, and 10, they're still part of Cottontown Village, right? They're the commercial, they're not residential. Yeah, so you got all the buildings there. So those are just getting, what, they're getting more parking lot, or, I mean, 3 of them are already built, right, Catherine?
Across the river.
'Cause I mean, 6,
Or the
5,
stream.
4, 5, and 6 are already built, right? So, I mean, not that it really matters, but I'm just curious.
The only thing that we're changing is Lot 3 and Lot 4.
Okay, so, all right.
And as you can see, now where that hasn't been changed, sorry, I'm gonna lose my voice one of these minutes. Where that hasn't been changed on Lot 3, it comes right down into our backyard. But now there's a fence and a wall.
So Eldon, on the plat here, it doesn't really show what's changing. I can't tell with 3 and 4.
I circled the areas that this area
Can you zoom in?
I've circled is part of Cottontown. And Cottontown Village is giving this area to Lot 4.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then the next item that Catherine was speaking to is the lot line adjustment between Lot 3 and 4.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, no, that makes more sense. All right.
It's called getting it all done on paper.
It just wasn't clear from the plat, that's all. Still not perfect.
All right. Are there any other questions, or I'd look for a motion?
All right, I'll make a motion to approve with regard to Cottontown Village amending and extending the partial plat Amendment A, subject to the conditions and findings in staff report.
Second.
All right, I have a first by Commissioner Davis, a second by Commissioner Anderson. Individual voting, Anderson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Dupo.
Aye.
Ure.
Aye.
And I am aye as well. Item 4C is a public hearing and consideration to approve a final plat partial amendment for Mill Creek subdivision located at 333 West Mill Creek Circle. And turn time to Sebastian for an explanation.
Same thing as before. In this case, as mentioned, the lot lines between lots 3 and 4 will be modified, shown on the screen there. And as stated before, a portion of a lot in the Cottontown Village subdivision will become part of Lot 4 in the Mill Creek subdivision. So staff has reviewed the proposed final plat partial amendment and finds it conforms to the zoning, and we have no issues with it. That conclude staff report, and we recommend approval.
All right, thank you. That one makes clearer sense.
Could I recommend that these plat drawings be included with the last one? Because this actually makes sense what they're doing.
Yeah.
The last one didn't make any sense what was going on. This is the drawings that should have been included with that last thing. Like, we would have seen this, it would have been easy.
Somehow, yeah, to clarify.
Like, these
hatch.
drawings just need to be included with both. Just so it makes more sense.
All right, this is a public hearing. Do we have any additional comments? We do not. So I close the public hearing and look for a motion.
So Commissioner Anderson, I'll make a motion to approve the final plat partial amendment to the Mill Creek subdivision located at 333 West Mill Creek Circle with the findings and conditions outlined by staff.
Commissioner Tupou, I second that.
I have a first by Commissioner Anderson, a second by Commissioner Tupou. Individual voting: Anderson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Tupou.
Aye.
And you're?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. That concludes the items on our agenda, so I now look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
First by Davis, second by all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.